This is the Mountainside Podcast, and joining us in studio for this episode is Brandon Young. He's a former U.S. Army Ranger with an extensive career operating at the highest level, doing 4 rotations in Afghanistan at the height of the war. Post-military career, Brandon has tackled so many amazing things in helping nonprofits and veterans themselves. He's currently a principal at Applied Leadership Partners. He's the co-author of Perseverance and Endurance. Brandon has tackled so many amazing things and is just one amazing human. It was an honor and privilege to have him in studio. I really enjoyed the conversation today. We covered so many life lessons, and I encourage you to listen to it in its entirety.
You're why fired, we can't have
dude.
Nice things.
It's barely holding together, this place.
Damn it.
So I started in on the book.
Yeah.
It's fucking awesome. Yeah. Thank you for reaching out, first of all, man. And I got to thank 2 people that vetted for you like right away, right out of the gate. So thank you to Ben Davis.
Yep. He's a
mutual
good man.
friend.
Yep. Good man.
And then Dustin Jacoby is your neighbor.
My man. I basically won the neighbor lottery. So there you have it. Yeah. DJ's my neighbor. He's a good dude.
What
Love
a savage, man. Like an unbelievable savage. And not only that, one of the nicest people
kindest
I know.
Human being you will ever meet. His wife, Kayla, totally incredible. Their sweet dog, Dak, he hangs with us a lot. Yeah.
Awesome.
We're very blessed to have them as neighbors. They're about as solid a human being as you can find.
I've always said if somebody doesn't like Dustin Jacoby, I probably won't like them.
I can't help you. Yeah. It's like, I can't help you.
So that was the first test. But you sent me or you gave me the reference to your book because we had just met like last week, and I was like, I got to have you in like right away. Yeah. So we punched you up the list. I started taking in the audiobook. This is freaking amazing, man. Like, unbelievable read. I think that it falls probably under a category of like business or self-help.
Yeah,
right?
business leadership. It's a little bit dynamic in the fact that business leadership and also a lot of growth orientation, a lot of personal help in that, because what we wanted to do is offer something useful for leaders, not only that helps them kind of navigate their own internal space, but lead others through adversity.
Man, I've taken in a lot of books, and I get a lot of book recommendations, and we have a lot of people that have written books that have reached out to us. And this wasn't the main reason I was having you on today either. Like, after we spoke the first time, I started taking this in. This is a great book, man. Like, I don't say that lightly. I've read quite a few books that have been recommended, and some of the writing can be a little shoddy or tough to go through. Like, this is great. The one thing that I wish that there was more of, that we're going to dive into today, is what kind of led you in, because I think that like some of the stories in here are riveting. This is not what I expected. I expected this was going to be straight business. Like, this is how you, lead a team, blah, 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 that sort of like corporate mindset. But right away, the first chapter dives into your first deployments in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Like directly after 9/11.
Yeah.
And some crazy stories, like the story of you guys coming in on the long ropes out of the Chinook.
Yep.
After the 160th bringing you in, or whatever was going on there, and guys burning in on the rope, and you getting hit in the face. Like, I was just, and that chapter's like, what, 45 minutes of, I don't know how many pages that is, but that's, it's like 45 minutes of listening for sure.
Yeah, it was a long exposition for us to be able to try and open up a new window into an old truth, which is, life's full of up and downs. Like, as much as we want it to be this way, there's no escalator to the top. Like, you're going to have bumps in the road. And so what Blaine, our co-author, my co-author and my business partner, and I tried to do is just open up a little bit to share some insights, because what we have found in our business practice is that companies all over the place, teams all over the place are going through a lot of uncertainty. It's just kind of the way it is, right? And what we have found is that when we open up a little bit and share our story a little bit, there's usually this immediate reaction of people who are like, holy shit, like, okay, wow, that's pretty heavy. And we don't do it for that impact, but we do it so that we can really just kind of get an understanding of, well, what are you going through right now? And to be able to say, yeah, that's hard. I mean, there's so many things that are going
hard.
on right now. Like nobody has a monopoly on hardship or suffering or adversity. And so Blaine and I really tried to be generous in opening up some of those stories to really help people out and just kind of.
I think it's genuine too. Like that's the thing is like, that's what I found with this is being 100% genuine, laying all my chips, feelings, emotions, everything right here on this table, no matter who's sitting across from me.
Yeah.
Much more than I would in like a public conversation or something like that, or an all outright interview, right? Like I've always kind of kept it as like two friends sitting down having a conversation or two people getting to know each other to build a friendship, right?
Yeah.
And that has been invaluable to me, but I think it's resonated more with the listeners because now that we do have a little bit of a platform, I run into people and they know way more about me than I know about them. And then it gives me the opportunity to ask them some questions and be like, so what do you do? Or, you know, like, what's your life like? Or how many kids do you have? And,
totally.
you know, those cliche openers to a conversation. But
Well, they're cliches because they're effective.
Yeah.
You know, and we try and remind folks all the time. So we get an opportunity to work with businesses, leaders all over the place, from local communities to, multinational companies. And one of the things that we always encourage is, be interested, not interesting. Don't try to wow everybody with, what you've got to say. Man, just ask and just listen. Listen to people.
That's the biggest thing, I think.
Well, and
that's what I've learned in here.
Well, that's why the community, is building. And you have so many people that are coming back. And that's why, I was talking to Ben and Dustin. I'm like, dude, I'd like to meet Bobby.
Welcome to the circle,
can I come?
I don't know why they didn't introduce us sooner, man. I was like, yeah, you're the perfect fit for this. It's one of my criteria is also, it's not only just vetting, are they a good person, but it's like, I want somebody sitting across from me that is more of a savage than I am. And when I say savage, like in the best way, right? Like has maybe had more life experience or life experience in a different way, or have truly tested themselves in multiple different ways. I think you fit the bill on that too.
Oh, thanks.
Man, it's, I haven't made it all the way through the book because I've really only had a couple days, I think.
I know,
we talked like 4 days ago.
I think we talked like 3 or 4 days ago.
Yeah.
And the fact that you're already into the book, I was like, dang, man, right on.
I had to. I was like, I got to at least dive into this so I have an idea, right? And I normally don't do a whole lot of homework. Like, if my guests have been on other podcasts, I've found I purposely don't go and listen to those because I don't want to have the same conversation that they might have had on another podcast. And I don't know how many you've done. I don't know how many you've done on your full life story, but I think it's worth telling multiple times. So that's kind of where I want to go with this. But real quick, before we get off the subject of the book, one thing that really resonated with me in the book personally was, and this is something that I struggle with, is my own health when it comes to being a father and your kids are involved in sports. You have a business of your own. Maybe there are multiple businesses that you're trying to run. That's always something that I've kind of backburnered, but I've also put a focus on it, but I feel like I don't enough. And the way that you guys elegantly explained, hey, this is what everybody's looking to you for. Lit a fire under my ass.
Awesome.
To get back. Not that I do something daily, but I was like, I can take more time. You know?
have more time than you think.
Yeah. And I think that whole lead by example is very important to me, especially in parenting and stuff like that. So thank you. No, that was a great point that I thought you guys put in the book that didn't necessarily need to be there for what you guys are trying to achieve in it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of time, Blaine and I, in a national veteran serving nonprofit called Team Red, White, and Blue. And Blaine was the very first employee. He was the executive director. And he called me up one day and said, hey, man, what do you think about coming over here and doing revenue development for us? I'm like, dude, I don't know anything about nonprofit. He's like, we think you're going to be fine. And the upshot of all that is that by the time we had left this organization, we had helped over 150,000 veterans reconnect to over 200 American cities by focusing on developing a rich life. And we called it the enrichment equation, which is health, people, and purpose. So physical health, mental health, emotional health, spiritual health. On the people vertical, you have genuine relationships, and then a sense of purpose. And really, when you look at a lot of the downstream negative effects of a lot of the folks who were coming back, veterans. So at this time, this was like the bloodiest time in the war. We're talking like 2014, 2015, just after some really nasty years, particularly. We had a lot of folks that were like Blaine and me who had gotten out. And at the time, the focus was jobs, education, and homelessness. And if you could kind of check the box on all three, it was like, oh, you're fine. But I had all of that, and I wasn't fine. I was not okay. And there was a lot of guys like me who, on the outside, everything looked really nice. But on the inside, I was just kind of just crumbling on the inside. And that's where we started to get upstream and say, well, what's missing here? What are all these dynamics that are missing? And loss of purpose, loss of identity, loss of genuine relationships and connection to the people that, you do life with. Like I was with the same guys for a decade when I served in the Rangers. And then all of a sudden one day I was gone. And that was that. And so we started to really take that to task and help other veterans kind of come back together. I mean, we did 50,000 events per year. And really,
that's great. 50,000?
50,000.
A year?
Across 200 cities.
Wow.
Dude, it was insane.
That's amazing.
One of the way that we did it is we had a very small headquarters staff, like 35, but we had 2,000 volunteer leaders rocking across the country. And, my partner Blaine says this all the time is you really want to test your chops in leadership, lead a mostly volunteer organization, volunteer-led organization.
So true.
So freaking hard. And, but what we did is we got ahead of it and we just kind of figured out like what do we need to get further and further upstream before we go down the road of all these negative failed reintegration aspects like, alcoholism or substance abuse, high-risk behaviors, all the way down to, unfortunately, suicide. We wanted to get as far up ahead of that as we could. And what we did is, we went hard in the paint. Like we worked with just a brilliant academic, social scientist, Dr. Caroline Angel. Brother, we did like research. We've been published in peer-reviewed journals like Oxford Press and all this stuff because we were like, no, this is real. This is real shit. And when at the beginning people were saying like, well, you guys should be doing this, jobs, education, homelessness, and we were like, no, we're going to stick to our knitting. By the time we had left that space, we'd really changed the dynamic and influenced the space in a different way where there was more of an aperture to how do we get people connected? How do we build peer-led communities? How do we start to get upstream and then put our hands on the folks that can actually get the help they need? And as we have continued on and lived our lives and done businesses and whatnot, we share that with leaders all the time because part of the ability to persevere through adversity is that you have to actually get left of bang, as we would say in the military, which means before a setback occurs, before some kind of adversity, hardship, something hits, we want to be as anti-fragile as possible. We want to build as much resilience on the front end as possible with that health, the people, the purpose, so that when you hit that setback, you can navigate through it thoughtfully, and then you can bounce back after the setback. And you have a much higher chance to do that when you've built up some of that resilience. And so we share that all the time with leaders because that truly is the space.
That's kind of the military mindset too,
For
right?
sure.
And training and stuff. I guess more as like a physical operational side of stuff, but
yeah.
But
it's all physical,
Right.
mental, you're going in the right direction. It's all of it, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, no, I think to be well-rounded in everything, I've definitely found that taking care of yourself first before you try to take care of others is probably the best approach, because if you don't feel good or your health isn't good or maybe something's going on in your relationships or whatever, right? That all just weighs heavy and is on the back. So like if you can clear the shelves of all the dust, all the garbage, all the stuff, clean all that stuff up as much as possible. Then you can really focus on your craft.
Yeah.
Your art, whatever it is, building muscle cars.
Yeah.
Mountaineering, skiing, whatever it is, right?
Sure.
Whatever your passion is.
Yeah. I mean, you can't pour into others if you have nothing to pour out of yourself to begin with. You know, like we have to do a little bit of that. And I think that we've made it really difficult on ourselves in our just cultural moment. You know, like I always tell people, like, I kind of bought into the 80s, 90s playbook, you know, work hard, get the job, get the promotion, you know, get the money, get the house, get the girl,
Lambo, the suitcase, telephone.
Get it all, man. Like, get it all. And then,
Miami Vice, bro. Let's go.
I know. I got Knight Rider going on in my head right now. I can't help it.
Airwolf was mine.
Dude.
Yeah.
Yes.
That and Rambo.
Oh, dude, Rambo.
No wonder I didn't go.
Bro, I was raised on Rambo and Commando.
Yeah,
man. I mean, I grew up in a house without a dad around, so that's what I thought was just like how guys did it, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I guess I got to go that route. But like, you know, what I found is that you get to the perceived mountaintop, let's say, and you know, I could argue that I was at the top of the mountain as far as the U.S. Army is concerned, as far as the military is concerned. You know, I spent just shy of a decade in the 75th Ranger Regiment, it's United States' premier direct action raid force. There wasn't a room I couldn't walk into in my uniform that anybody wouldn't have looked at me and said, like, okay, like that dude's
business.
Yeah. Savage, as you said, right? But the truth is that every time I hit one of those mountaintops, I was utterly alone, and I was miserable. I was really miserable.
Let's dive into this now, because we're already 20 minutes in, and I don't want to put any time constraints on anything today. But I think we're kind of starting to jump around your story a little bit, so sure. I think now is a good segue just to go like back to the beginning. Kind of, you mentioned you didn't grow up with a dad.
Yep.
That sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And then it always baffles me, because I grew up in a similar situation, how many super successful and some of the most savage people that I know personally grew up without fathers, whether they lost them in plane crashes.
Yeah.
You know, their dads weren't, there's a lot of dads that just weren't around, like mine, you know, and it kind of makes it made me grow up faster. So I'm always intrigued by that. And it seems like with a lot of the tier 1 operators, and correct me if I'm wrong, they don't always come back, or they don't always come from the rosiest backgrounds, right? Like they've kind of faced a lot of adversity in their lives prior to even enlisting.
Sure.
And then all of a sudden they're thriving in a combat situation.
Yeah.
Or as a tier 1 operator situation, I guess.
I mean, it's funny, you know, the special operations community and, you know, just the tier structure is a little bit.
Okay, I'm totally probably butchering that.
It's okay. I don't want anyone to misrepresent me to misrepresent anything.
Feel free to correct me. I'm wrong all the time. That's why Jeremy sits over there.
So the 75th Ranger Regiment, technically within a certain component, the Joint Special Operations Community sits at Tier 2.
Oh, really?
Yes, it's okay though, because we're pretty badass. But elements of it sit at a different tier, and then you have, you know, of course, the Dev Group and the CAG and all that, or Delta, whatever they're called today. I don't know, but
they have to keep changing the names because guys keep writing books.
It's super fun. It's super fun for me, but they all work in a package. We all work in a package, and so your point is taken. And so I would just want to make sure that I wanted to make sure to address that. But the other thing is, I was going to say is, when I got to the 2nd Ranger Battalion, 6 dudes, we lived in a 4-man room. Every one of us had come from a broken home.
Really?
All of us.
That's pretty, I mean, point
taken right there, yeah.
It's all the guys that I know that are my personal friends now, that I can call personal friends, and most of the guys that I do know that are in their circles are all like that. Ben might be the only guy that I know that grew up with like a normal childhood.
No wonder he's so delightful.
Yeah. This is no knock on you, Ben. I love you, buddy. But yeah.
No, it's really common, and especially in the Rangers, you know, like our job is close with and destroy the enemies of our country. Like I said, premier direct action raid force. We don't hand out water bottles. We don't hand out candy. We don't interact with the local populace. We do raids, airborne operations, airfield seizures, lots of stuff, cool stuff. I think it attracts a certain type.
Sure.
You
have to want to be there.
You really do. Yeah, you really, because, I'll tell you what, man, like everybody wants to be a ranger until it's time to do ranger shit.
Right.
And then you really start to sort out who's really in it for the long haul, because I tell young guys this all the time that ask me, you will suffer more than you ever imagined that you could suffer. You don't need to know why you want to be a ranger. You need to know why you have to be a ranger. That is the only thing that is going to carry you through the suffering, because if there's anything we do better than anybody else, it's suffer.
Yeah, from what I know of it and what I've heard, it's unbelievable, man. It really is. There's so many life lessons I think that guys that have been put in your position learn at such a young age that most men don't experience. Like,
yeah,
if you're just going into a college setting, or like I did on the tour bus and following rock bands around, it's just a totally different set of responsibilities.
Yeah.
I think that's why I'm trying to think if I know any guys that served at that level, whether it was a MARSOC Marine,
yep,
a Ranger, Green Beret, Navy SEAL, that is not crushing it in life right now. Like, they're all just crushing it in business,
yeah,
personal life. It doesn't mean that they don't have hiccups or hardships. I mean, they still do, but they seem to kind of find a way out of it.
Yeah.
A lot easier than the normal person, I think.
I think so. I mean, I think we get a lot of early reps at persevering, at really hitting the uncertainty in life. And I think that, human beings crave certainty, right? That's just the way the brain is. We choose pattern, we seek pattern. So we'll drink the same type of drinks, we'll go to the same kind of restaurants, we'll wear the same types of clothes because we're seeking certainty or pattern in an otherwise uncertain world. But things will happen that will rip the veneer off of that contrived certainty that you have put in place. And when that happens, you got to figure out how to navigate that complexity. And that's the whole job of a special operator. In the special operations community, regardless of which unit you're at or, which tier you're at, it doesn't matter. You're operating in a package of human beings that all have a specific focus, something that they do better than anybody else and anybody else in that package. And you're all thrown into uncertainty over and over again. You're all thrown into these ambiguous, asymmetrical environments, and you got to figure it out. Because in the end of the day, no matter how miserable that moment might be, the mission is greater than the moment. You have got to get through it. You can't just stop and say like, oh, I guess we'll just do over. Let's go back to the airfield. You guys want to do over? Timeout? There are no timeouts in combat.
Yeah.
There's no timeouts in combat. There's only choices and consequences. And so we learn that a lot. And I think that, I think we just try to kind of continue on with that because we're trying to make an impact. The other thing too is that, and I can only speak for myself, but, with enough of my, brothers and sisters out there that I've spent time with is, I was 18 years old and I raised my hand and said, send me, I'll serve. That's what I'm going to do. And so there's some kind of a fabric of service in there as well. And I find that oftentimes when I see people who are crushing it in life, right, they're doing it in service of others, in service of building a community, building a movement, addressing a need, connecting people, things like that really
agree.
change the world, as opposed to those who are doing it for themselves. You kind of see it.
Yeah.
And when you see it, you're just like,
Yeah, people that truly help. And it doesn't mean that, I mean, a lot of the guys that I know are helping in so many different ways, and they don't want any credit.
Yeah.
They're just good people. You know, I think that that's the true sign of being genuine or something like that, is just doing something for somebody and not asking for anything in return.
yeah.
I think that that's huge. And I think that makes me feel better,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because, like, why would you?
I think we're hardwired for it,
Yeah, 100%.
right?
Yeah. So I gain something out of it, right? Even though I am doing it almost in a selfish way a little bit, right? It's like I genuinely want to help somebody so I can feel better and make their day better or whatever, right? If I choose to.
I mean,
I guess.
suppose it could be both, right?
Yeah.
They're not actually
It's a
mutually
win-win.
exclusive.
Right.
Yeah.
Another question that I got that's burning in the back of my mind when you were talking about being in combat and having to make those decisions and why it relates to business and business in life or life stuff. Do you think that one of the things, because how I've been able to find success in my careers with this is you're going to hit roadblocks, you're going to hit walls, you're going to hit speed bumps, whatever you want to call it. If you don't keep moving over those or through those or past those, or even if you just hesitate, right, and don't keep moving, do you think that that's kind of part of the mindset too? I mean, did they teach you that in combat? Like,
Yeah.
just keep going?
Yeah, I think so. It's fine. I'm giggling, Bobby, because I'm remembering when I was
Am I asking you stupid questions?
No.
Okay.
No, you're asking great questions.
I'm selfishly learning right now.
Oh my gosh, dude.
The show's about you, but I'm selfishly learning.
No, this show's about us, brother.
Us, yeah.
No, I'm thinking back to when I was a kid, and I know you said you wanted to kind of go back and everything.
Yeah.
Which we can.
Yeah, let's start right now.
Well, I'll start with this, and then I'll go backwards behind that. So,
Yeah.
I think the first time I started going to the Army recruiter in the town that I grew up in, which is Fremont, California. So I'm from the East Bay. So I'm one of the many Californians who are here in Colorado. Thank you for being cool to me and inviting me on the show.
Yeah, man, you're welcome. Are you a NoFX fan?
Oh, man.
Yeah.
No effects. I haven't heard that in a while, man.
I'm sidetracking you now.
What is it? Franco Un-American?
Yeah, man.
Oh,
There's
dude.
so many.
That song's
They're so political,
that song's
right?
in my
they
head,
don't
right?
align with me politically at all, but they are
But
awesome
they're bangers,
bands.
dude.
Yeah.
That song's a banger. I remember
incredible.
playing that in like 2005 in like the barracks. And people were like, what the hell is he saying? I'm like, don't worry about it,
Don't
man.
worry about it. It's
Just
a good
feel it,
tune.
dude.
Yeah.
Just feel it. No, but I think the first time that I ever went to the Army recruiter office, I was like 15.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And he's like, I got it. Like, you'll come talk to me when you can actually
3 years.
Yeah, come talk. He's like, I get it.
Right.
But the reason I started giggling when you asked about, do you think that we just learn to go through it is Sergeant Nichols, this was his name, was my recruiter. And he told me right before I left for the military, he said this, right before I went to basic training, right? He said, my dad was one of the guys, the soldiers on the Bataan Death March. Wow. And what he told me is what I'm now about to tell you. And it carried me through the Army, and it's going to carry you through the Army. And it's this. When his father was on the Bataan Death March, he said, it was the guys who took a knee on the side of the road that never got back up. But the guys who kept moving are the ones that made it to the end and to the next step and the next step. So don't take a knee on the side of the road because you'll never get back up. And that's what I was sent off to basic training with. And that was 1997, right?
What a good mentor, man.
He'd gotten so sick of me. I've been there for like 3 years. I'm like, hey, I want to join. I know.
Right?
Yeah. So, no, but I mean, I can go further back from that. So,
yeah. So grew up in the East Bay.
Grew up in the East Bay. That's right.
What an amazing spot when you were growing up, probably, huh?
Probably. And I didn't really experience it that way. So San Francisco Bay Area, 80s, 90s, huge explosion of affluence. And I was one of the kids whose father left us behind, and my mom was working 4 jobs to keep 3 kids alive in the most expensive place in the country. So what I kind of learned in that environment is I was kind of like an outsider on the inside. I would see all of this going on around me. I would see families that were whole. I'd see fathers who would hug their sons. I'd see all of that. And what I learned was that's not for me. Like, I don't get that experience. So when my father was around, it was a really chaotic place, basically an unsafe environment. And I'm the youngest of 3, so shit rolls downhill, and that's just kind of what happens, right? And when I was 11, I remember he kind of finally was going to go off with his mistress, right? My dad was kind of a addict to money and women, and would do anything he could do to score both, right? And so I'll never forget, I was 11 years old. He backs up a U-Haul truck, guts everything of worth in the house, and I'm just like standing there watching it all go down. And he comes walking over to me very casually and gets down like in my face, nose to nose, and says, "I'm going to financially destroy your mother." And wow. I was like, okay, what do I do with this? Now, by this point in time already, I had gotten into so much trouble as a kid, because of just the chaos that this man had created. I mean, he was just not a healthy guy. Like, this is the kind of guy who he would pay me $1 every time I would beat up another kid. So I wanted to make money, so I would, do that. My brother, smart guy, he became my promoter. He'd like, "Oh no, these guys started fights with Brandon," but he whooped their ass, and they're like, sweet, and they're like 50-50, right? So anyways, but so I had already been pretty, aggressive kid. I was like the kid that always got red cards on the soccer game, but back in that moment, he's in my face, going to financially destroy your mother. When he got up and walked away, I'll never forget, standing there and just saying, do something, do something, do something. So I did something. I bolted upstairs, stole 2 of his pistols, because I had effectively become the man of the house. My brother and sister were old enough where they were able to get out of the house a little bit more freely. And I kind of viewed myself as my mom's protector. And, I was going to arm myself for the task because, like I said, I was raised on Rambo and Commando, and I thought that that's what I had to do. Now, bar that, from the time I had memories, I knew I wanted to be a soldier. And going through that experience, we all worked at young ages to contribute, and, I'm a free and reduced lunch kid, and there's no way we would have been able to survive if we didn't have the kind of support that we had, in our school system, Mission San Jose High School, and in our community. And so, we made it through. I was very lucky also because not only did I get a job where there was this place in Fremont called the Fruit Stand, the Nagata Brothers Farm, right? And it was kind of like the land of misfit toys because it was all the kids whose dads left them behind, and we all worked there. And these Japanese brothers kind of were like our uncles, and they just looked out for us. It was amazing. Right?
Karate Kid, man.
Dude, well, I'm going there too. Yeah, and that's when I
started Muay Thai. Though. Yeah, okay, that's awesome. So I want to go back just here for just a second because, man, that's heavy.
Yeah.
Man, no kid should have to experience that.
Yeah.
When you ran upstairs and you were going to do something to get the guns, was there any thought of using them, or was it just a pure protection standpoint at that? Because, man, that's wild to think. How old did you say, 11?
11. Yeah.
So at 11 years old to have that sort of mindset. And then did you know how to operate a gun at that point, or?
No.
Really?
No, it was pure protection instinct,
Yeah.
I think, Bobby. That's such a great question. I think I just wanted to protect my mom.
Yeah.
You know, protect my brother, protect my sister. You know, I just felt like that's what I should do.
Yeah, but one wrong decision, it could have went the other way.
Oh, brother, my life is full of, one wrong decision away. I mean, I've been very blessed. You know, shortly thereafter, like I said, you know, the Nagatas were good to us, and one of my buddies who I had worked in the fruit stand with, Justin and Wayne, another buddy, they were like, "Yo, come check out the martial arts academy." And so I went into it was a kung fu academy, but my Sifu, the master, Shane Lacey, like 4-time 5-star world grand champion. And dude, you want to talk about savage, man.
Well, you want to talk about being put in your place as a kid. I don't think there's any better way to experience than in a martial art.
Oh, yeah, man.
If you're in the right spot, because there's a lot of bullshit ones out there, too, that are just a belt promotion spot, right?
Yeah,
and
belt
money.
factories.
Yeah.
That's actually one of the things that I used to do after I had kind of gotten my chops and gotten my face kicked in enough times is I started taking private lessons with Shane. So my foundation was in Wing Chun and Chole Foot, Kung Fu. And then Shane took me into more Western boxing and Muay Thai and kind of incorporating all of that into a functional mixed martial art, basically.
Yeah.
And
before it was
cool. Yeah, man. I mean, this is about the time when Hoist Gracie's choking out Emmanuel Yarborough in UFC 1.
Crazy,
you know?
So crazy.
Remember all that? I mean, we were totally
from where it started and where it's at now.
Oh, it's insanity.
Did you know not to sidetrack us here too much, the original Octagon from UFC 1, it started here in Denver. I don't know if you...
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it started right here at McNichols Arena, if you can remember that place. Way before the Pepsi Center or anything. It's where the Nuggets played. But that original Octagon, I'm not sure that Dana White knows this, is at a fight gym here in Denver still.
No kidding.
Yeah, I'm surprised he hasn't bought it or something. So we were thinking about we're doing this other series that's kind of outside of the studio.
Nice.
Where we're either out at the archery range or filming, making some of these stone tools. My buddy Donnie helped make, but we were thinking about doing one down there on just that first Octagon because you think of the history. But it's the very first Octagon that was...
It's not at Factory X, is it?
No, it's not. Shout out to those guys.
Those guys
Amazing gym. It's at Genesis.
Okay.
Yeah,
nice.
with Coach Jake. And they have a lot of cross-pollination, I guess, with Factory X. I don't know what their relationship is like, but both great people.
Yeah.
But Coach Jake over there. And then there's a bunch of bare-knuckle guys that are in there. And just... there's a lot of savages in that gym too.
Man.
Yeah,
respect.
Yeah, a lot of respect.
Respect. Yeah,
but yeah, that's cool. So if you ever get the chance, you got to drop by there sometime.
I totally
check
will,
that
man.
out. Yeah. Kind of cool.
So I got really very blessed in the fact that I kind of got off fighting out in the streets or in school or whatever. I mean, I almost got expelled in elementary school because I just kept getting into fights and everything like that. And it's not a shocker when you look back on what was going on in the house, right?
Yeah.
But I was very fortunate. I got to fight, and it was a no bullshit environment. I mean, I'll never forget one day. Some shit you not, this dude comes from. He's a representative of the Red Army in China, come to challenge Shane in his school, and. I'm like
they turned it into an event,
dude,
or was it?
He literally
just walked in
one
the door.
night, shows up.
What the?
I am here to challenge you.
Well, that used to happen to the Gracies in Brazil.
Bro,
if you read any of that's wild.
I saw it happen. I was right there, and I'm I think I was probably 17 at the time, and
wow.
Shane's a world champion, and he's just okay, well here's my top student. He fought his top student, and the guy was doing pretty well, and then Shane was like, all right, stop. And bro, I shit you not, wasn't but maybe 30 seconds in, Shane broke this cat's jaw with a right hook, and that was it. I mean, dude was jaw hanging. I'm 17 watching this shit go down. I'm
really?
What is happening right now?
That's crazy.
But that's the kind of stuff that would go down. But at any rate, so I always kind of knew that the path for me, though, was the Army. And as soon as I could join, I did. And I signed up for a infantry contract. So unassigned airborne.
I'm going to interrupt you here again, but while all this is going on, where's your mom at in this? Is she like supportive, and is she supportive of you going into the military, especially because she's kind of leaning on you as income? You're her protector, really? I mean, at that point, right? Like, kind of the
felt
man
like
of
it
the
for
house,
me.
yeah,
I mean,
or one of the men of the house. I don't know if you have brothers or sisters.
I do. I have an older brother,
Okay.
and I have an older sister, and so I think everybody did their own part.
Mm-hmm.
And my brother had graduated high school and he had moved out, so he was out of the picture a little bit, and my sister was kind of doing stuff, and so I was really there with my mom a lot. I'd pour her wine, light her cigarettes, and listen, because she was hurting, and hurting bad. And you want to talk about grit. My mom has got a lot of grit. I think that's probably where I got a lot of grit from. She didn't give up.
Mm-hmm.
She kept going. She kept putting one foot in front of the other. She didn't proverbially take a knee on the side of the road. She said, like, okay, I'm going to be providing for 3 kids. So I guess I just have to figure out how many jobs that I need to do it. And it was 4.
Yeah.
4 was the answer.
Yeah. Shout out to mom. That's fucking awesome.
Love you, Mom.
I mean, I think that, the cliche saying of behind every good man is a woman, or I'm probably butchering that, but I really think it's moms that raise savage young men.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, because going back to kind of that correlation of guys growing up in broken homes and stuff like that, a lot of the most savage guys I know are raised by their moms.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Well, I mean, I think
to me.
No, I'm with you, brother. I mean, I think we're in some ways, I hope, coming out of a time in our country's history where we have had a lot of fatherlessness.
Mm-hmm.
Like the overwhelming majority of single parent homes of the kids that we served when I was working as the chief of advancement at the Tennyson Center, it was moms. It was like 95% single moms raising kids who were struggling.
That's crazy.
Struggling mightily. And I know that it is common across the board. And, I told you that I looked around me, and I was very blessed with great friends too. I mean, shout out to my buddies. Like, we were just kind of a bunch of nerds in school who loved the Wu-Tang Clan, and we're all into it.
Let's
and
go.
We looked out for each other. Like,
they ain't nothing to fuck with.
That's right. That's right. Nothing to fuck with.
They're about to tour again.
I know they're coming on the 4th of July to Fiddlers, dude.
Are they?
Yes.
Okay, let's go.
Come on, man.
Jeremy, put it down. Start buying tickets right now.
Dude, I'm trying to get my buddies to come out. Like Waylon, Derek, Steve. Come on, guys. Let's do it.
I just took my kid to go see Redman and Method Man.
Oh, you did?
Out of here. How sick was it?
It was cool. Yeah.
They still got it, right?
They were on for a while. I saw them in Salt Lake once, and they did like a 45-minute set, and it was so hack. I was so angry, but they were on for an hour and a half down at Red Rocks.
Crushing it.
Awesome. Yeah.
They were at Red Rocks?
Yeah.
Dope.
Dude,
yeah, awesome.
No bullshit. I think it was either 96 or 97. We got tickets to Mountain View Amphitheater.
Mm-hmm.
We get tickets to Rage Against the Machine, opening by Wu-Tang.
Wow.
And this was right when like the whole thing fell apart. Like, I can't remember who it was that like Ghostface totally dissed somebody on stage in New York, and then everything started to fall apart. Wu-Tang pulled out right before, which was a total bummer. But we got to see the Roots open.
Oh yeah, I've seen them a bunch. I'm from Philly.
yeah.
So,
yeah? Dude, it was sick.
Yeah,
and
I've seen them a bunch.
And you want to talk about like pure raw energy, a rage concert back in their heyday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude,
That's awesome.
I'm like getting fired up just thinking
Yeah,
about it
I know.
right now. I mean, that's
I'm getting goosebumps
yeah,
because
man. It's like audio adrenaline.
I just saw them. Well, this was fucking over 10 years ago. I saw their return.
Yeah.
I was at Lollapalooza with another band.
Uh-huh.
And I think it was their first show. It might have been their second show back. 3 songs. They didn't even get 3 songs. It was like 2.5 songs.
Okay.
People were dying. in the pit because they were just getting trampled.
Oh, yeah.
Chicago PD shut it down.
Yeah.
They were like,
what year was this?
They stopped. They got 45 seconds into a song, had to stop. 45 seconds into a song, stop.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That's
Crazy. It was
That's
like
sad. You don't want to see that.
2012 or something.
Yeah.
And I was in the crowd, and I'm a pretty big guy and can fend for myself.
Yeah.
And I was literally dragging.
You grew up in that game.
Yeah. Well, I knew it. Like, I could have stood on the side of the stage and watched it go down, but I was like, no, I want to go out there and experience this because I had never seen them, prior to that.
That's a whole different experience right there, man.
Yeah. It was crazy. It was crazy. People were losing their fucking minds, literally.
Yeah. I remember.
Yeah. The best riffs in the world. I still use their music in here for the podcast every once in a while.
Dude,
when we can sneak it in,
Yeah, that's so good.
It's awesome. All right, sorry.
I don't know how we got
a little
on that,
sidetrack. Yeah. Oh, I'm a music freak. Jeremy is too. So
I love music. I'm a total music nerd.
Yeah, let's go to Wu-Tang. So we were talking about Wu-Tang. How did we get on that subject?
I don't remember how we got.
Oh, your friends'
my friends.
circle.
Yeah. We were just kind of like these goofballs who were into Wu-Tang and just looking out for each other, and so I was very fortunate in that. But at any rate, I ended up staying out of trouble enough, going into the Army, and when I signed up for the Army, I went in there. I'll never forget this too, and this is a fairly common story, especially among the special operation community. So I go, you go in and you sit down and you take the test and you do all the stuff, and I sat down there, and the guy's like, okay, well, you have a GT score that's high enough, which is general technical. It's basically like a base IQ. Like, you could do whatever you want. I'm like, sweet. I want infantry. I want airborne infantry. And the guy's like, let me start over. You can do whatever you want. And I'm like, I understand. Airborne infantry, that's what I want. And it baffled him. But anyways, I got the airborne infantry contract and, went to Fort Benning in 1997 and on like Donkey Kong.
From there, how do you get selected in the Ranger program? Or do you get selected out of infantry at an opportunity at the Ranger program, or how does that work?
There's a couple of general paths. So you can sign up with something that is called an Option 40 contract, which means after you go to basic training, you can go to Ranger assessment and selection. That's the path now. Back in my time, it was basic training, airborne school, and then at the time it used to be called RIP, Ranger Indoctrination Program. And so I went in on the I don't have anything but an airborne and an infantry contract. So that's all I went in under. And the way that I got there to actually get the chance to go to RIP was, so when you're in basic training, they assign a platoon guide. So this is basically the student leader of the platoon. A platoon's about
Camp
40
counselor.
guys. Yeah, exactly. Peer leadership, 40 dudes. And I was the platoon guide. And I was the platoon guide for the whole cycle, but they're supposed to cycle it out and this and that. It only got cycled out once because the drill sergeant wanted to punish some other dude. But I was the guy. And towards the end of basic training, we got this new Drill Sergeant Coronado. And he's like, "Young, why are you so pissed all the time?" I'm like, these guys are driving me crazy. Why is this? I didn't understand. Doesn't everybody just want to be here and just want to close with and destroy the enemy and get it on? I mean, I was like, come on, let's do this. And he's like, you know where you need to go? You need to go to the Ranger Regiment. And he had been in 3rd Ranger Battalion. I said, well, I want to someday, but I've got to be a sergeant to get there.
So how long are you in the military at this point?
Or
in the Army? Yeah.
3 months. Maybe
Really?
2 or 3 months. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So he's like, you got to, he's like, here's the deal. When you get to airborne school, you volunteer. You can volunteer to go to Ranger Indoctrination Program in airborne school. I'm like, great. So that's what I did. Is I got to airborne school, and they had this office where there was the Ranger liaison there, and I mean every day airborne school is only 3 weeks long. Every day I would go and I'd knock on the door and be like, is this guy here?
Just like the recruiter.
Is this guy here? Yeah, man. Knock on that door. I was relentless, dude. I would write my name and social security number on pieces of paper and slip it under the guy's door, or I'd write it on his chalkboard. I never saw the guy but twice. The first time I saw him, like 2 weeks into airborne school, they do a ranger briefing where they say, this is what it's all about to be a ranger. Who's interested? So I went to that, and that's the first time that I saw him. And, I signed my name on the piece of paper, and I hand it to him, and he looks at it, he's like, are you the guy that keeps putting his name on my,
pillow,
my wall? I'm like, Roger Sargent, and I was in the front lean and rest the entire time. I was doing push-ups the whole time. And then the second time I saw him, it was when you do your 5th jump, you graduate on Friar Field in Fort Benning. They pin your wings on you, and dude comes walking out with that black beret, read off a couple names, and mine was one of them, and on to RIP I went.
Wow.
Yeah.
So basically right out of basic training into
the
Rangers.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah. That's the first unit that I grew up in. It's where I'm from.
Yeah. So how old are you at that point when you're
18?
Wow.
Yeah.
When do most guys make that jump into the Rangers or go to assessment? Is it at 18 for most of them? And then what are like the senior guys that are in there?
One of my buddies, shout out to John, I won't say his last name, he knows who he is. He liked to say that a Ranger battalion is 18 to 23-year-old convicts led by 24 to 27-year-old convicts.
Right.
That's about a good summation of the Rangers in the late 90s. I mean, it was an intense experience. For up in Second Ranger Battalion. Second Ranger Battalion hadn't been to combat since Panama in 1989.
That's what I wanted to get at is what year too, because it's kind of a peacetime then, right?
Yeah,
like where
absolutely.
The Desert Storm was like the only real.
Well, we had Somalia
in
'93, which was 3rd Ranger Battalion.
That was huge.
Yep, Task Force Ranger. You had guys from the unit, guys from the Ranger Battalion, the whole Joint Special Operations package that I was kind of talking about before, all there together. But that had been 4 years prior. So you have basically a whole 500 dudes who are training for war every day, day in and day out, and just waiting for the call because you're worldwide deployable in 18 hours of notice. Anywhere in the world, all you need is 18 hours of notice and you're gone. Mm-hmm. And so we were in that cycle. And so
are the Rangers operating in any sort of fashion with like development group or anything like that, like stuff that might not be a war, but you guys are going into different countries to do different things or for different 3-letter organizations and stuff like that?
Yeah, the best way to describe it is that the Rangers work in a package, and when that package gets activated in some way, whether it's dev group or the unit or whatever, then Rangers, we're typically activated within a package like that.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you have like Task Force 160th, freaking best pilots in the world. You've got, Air Force, combat controllers, pararescuemen. So
there's so many elements, man. Like
yeah. It's all in this discrete package, and then you have other special operations units that are also operating in their own orbit. Like, you've got like special forces, like my business partner, Blaine, he's a Green Beret. The stuff that they're doing is just like crazy insane. I mean, it's all discretely oriented towards what your mission set is, which is what I think is really important to know is it's just, what is it that your unit is specifically designed to do?
And are you a wide receiver or defensive end?
Exactly.
Right? Like,
exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Do I need 2 wide receivers on this play, or do I need a tight end and a wide receiver? Right. Yeah. So it was kind of like that.
Okay.
That's a great comparison.
Football mindset. I love football. So you're trained up. 9/11 hits. Mm-hmm. You're fully trained, ready to go. And the book, I read that. Spoiler alerts here. You pretty much deploy, but you got a bunch of personal stuff going on too, kind of around this time. Is there anything that we need to preface before we dive into this? Because this could go for a while. And Anything that you don't want to touch on too, like just feel free to.
Oh, I appreciate the question. Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Thanks, brother. No, I mean, I think what's to know is that, as a late 90s Ranger, the environment was very much filled with high intensity, a lot of hazing, a lot of just like crazy intensity stuff where you're hard pressed to find a more violent environment, and violence in every aspect of life, like physically violent, emotionally violent, mentally violent, sexually violent. I mean, it is a violent environment because we every day trained to close with and destroy the enemies of our country. And we're just kind of had all this like pent up, like, oh, we got to get at it. And so I think that's probably the only thing worth noting is that, for 4 years, I progressed through the ranks, going from private to staff sergeant, which is E6, which is a squad leader, just kind of doing the paces one by one by one by one. And the way it works in the Ranger Regiment, which I'll, share, is that there's a difference between Ranger qualified, so a Ranger tab, and being in the Rangers, which is the scroll.
Huge difference.
Huge
right?
difference.
Yeah.
So you get into the Rangers when you pass assessment and selection, and you are assigned to a unit that one of the battalions where you're worldwide deployable. That's basically, and mission is direct action, right? And then as you're there for a period of time, they determine whether you are ready to be a leader and when you're ready to be a leader. And when you are, they send you back to regimental headquarters in Georgia. You get trained up, and then you go to Ranger School. So that when you go to Ranger School, which is the Army's or the military's premier combat leader development course, you go through that miserable experience, which I did in end of 98 and into 99. And you graduate and you come back, then you are a leader within the Rangers. And so I got to do that. I earned my tab in 99. Anybody will tell you who's gone through Ranger School, you earn your buddy's tab. Premier Combat Leader Development course, yeah. My business partner Blaine likes to say probably better billed as a Premier Teammate Development course because it's a miserable experience. The two levers they use to replicate the stress of combat is sleep deprivation and starvation. And so you will be doing continuous movement for, at least 18 hours a day. You might get to eat once a day if you're lucky. They don't care if you sleep, and you probably won't sleep for many days. So I had lost 30 pounds in the first 2 weeks.
Holy shit.
I routinely droning, which is just falling asleep while you're standing up, hallucinating, like they don't make drugs that good, man. I'll tell you what, like it's a wild experience, but you got to figure out, how do I lead men at my best when they are at their worst? Mm-hmm. So I get through that, progress through all the steps, and come the towers falling on 9/11. I was the squad leader of a 9-man Ranger assault squad. And I also was engaged to be married that December. In addition to that, my mother-in-law-to-be had just had her first round of chemotherapy. So she had had cancer 20 years prior to that. It had been in remission for a while. It came back with a vengeance, to the point that 9/11/01 was her 53rd and final birthday. We watched the towers fall from her hospital room. And she said, "Are you going to get involved in this?" I said, "Yes." She went home on hospice care the next day. September 17th, we called a justice of the peace over because she had a day of clarity. We got married in the living room of the house that my wife grew up in. Her mom, Judy, died 2 days later, and I deployed about 6 days after that.
Wow.
So I'm over in...
Fucking a lot going on, man.
There's a lot going on. It was a pre-planned deployment to Jordan. So we do a routine mission out in Jordan where we come alongside Jordanian Rangers and train them. So we knew we were going, but once the
you
towers
weren't
fell,
greenlit to
once
go
the
into
towers,
country,
yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Once the towers fell and the balloon went up, we were like, game on, bitches. Like this is what we've been waiting for. And so we get over there, and we had basically that. I talk about that joint special operations package. We had the package. We're the closest to the X. We're like, hell yeah, we're gonna do this.
So were you on base when the towers were actually being hit and stuff like that, or were you at home, or?
I was at home recovering from a night range. So I think I got home at like 3:00 in the morning. And the phone kept ringing over and over and over again. I think it must have been like 6 a.m. This is Pacific time. Phone kept ringing over and over again. I get up and answer. I'm like, hello. It's Kelly. She's like, are you awake? I said, no. She's like, go turn on the TV right now. We're under attack. And I'm like, what? I turn on the television and I'm like, I gotta go. And it took hours to get on Fort Lewis at the time. I mean, everything was sequestered, and it was just like, phone calls, this and that, and everyone trying to get like, who's where's everybody at? I'm en route. I'm stuck at the gate. It was crazy, right? And then everybody gets in, and it's like, let's do it. Like we're
Ready to go.
We're number one in the chamber. Wu-Tang banger.
Yeah,
right.
Let's go.
Like let's do it, right? So we get over there, and we started to do some stuff that was indicative of the fact that we were going to do something for real. This doesn't probably mean much to many people, but whenever you do training jumps, airborne operations, you never, ever jump with live rounds. We were doing live round jumps out there. We were doing, movements. It was kind of like,
as close as you can get.
This is yeah. It's gonna feel like it's coming, right? I feel like it's coming, and we were like all boo-boo lipped when we saw 3rd Ranger Battalion jump in Objective Rhino October 19th in Afghanistan. We were like, son of a bitch, like we missed it. We missed the whole war. We were so stupid,
right? Because conflicts happen. Like Somalia was like so fast, right?
Yeah, a couple months. You look at Panama, it's 30 days. I mean, we were like, we're like the hit it and quit it force, right?
Right.
Like,
God, little did we know. Huh?
Oh my God, man! Little did we know that kicked off over 8,000 days of continuous combat operations for the 75th Ranger Regiment, the most continuously deployed unit in the global war on terror, 75th Ranger Regiment.
Wow. And at one point, the whole regiment was there, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So we're over there. So it's Jordan, right? And like I said, like I'm sequestered and all this kind of stuff. I'm able to call home after like 3 weeks because, like you're a special operations unit. You don't tell people, you can't communicate, nothing like that. Mm-hmm. Call home and Kelly's like, I'm pregnant. I'm like, of course you are. Sweet.
I'm sorry, this might get a little bit personal, but like, was all that stuff in the back of your mind, or were you just focused on the task at hand, or are you able to just kind of, when you're on a deployment, check out a personal life, or like, how do you deal with that, man? Like
a lot of journaling for me. Mm-hmm. I actually have, I carried in my pocket in a plastic bag that said, in case of death, give to my wife. And I would just have a little journal and I would document it. It's pretty crazy, actually. My daughter is 20, and I pulled them out. I don't know why, but I just found them. And she's like, read me something from that. And I opened up the page and read off, and it was from Jordan. Like it's whatever date it was, and it says, I just learned that I'm going to be a father. So I'm like, I had just called Kelly, and I think that basically what happens is that you become really good at compartmentalization. Mm-hmm. You become really good at dissociation.
But you hadn't talked to Kelly in 3 months? Is that what you said when you?
Weeks.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I hadn't talked to her for 3 weeks.
That's a long time, man.
Well, especially it's a long time when you just got married, mother just dies, husband just leaves.
Yeah.
It's like, and Kelly and her mom were so close. It was devastating. Devastating.
I'm sure.
I mean, she was
Must have been one of the hardest points in her life, I would imagine.
I mean, yeah, I think she would. I think if she was here, she would probably, affirm that it was tough, man. And people ask her. She tells me this. People ask her all the time, How did you do it? She's like, you just do it. Like, there's you just keep going. Like,
It's just the hand that's dealt, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, this is it, right? You just, what's the next best thing I can do? I guess, and you just kind of keep going. And so that was it, man. And we ended.
And you didn't come home for quite a while, right? I think I remember reading.
We came home.
Okay.
So we come home, and then pretty shortly thereafter, we got spun up, and we went to Afghanistan. So I was out in Afghanistan for much of 2002 and almost all of 2003. And so that first deployment to Afghanistan, I'm now listening to my son being born from a Iridium satellite phone. I'm in Bagram, Afghanistan. My wife and son is being born in Seattle, Washington. And you want to talk about like feeling about as low as I've ever felt in my life. The last thing I ever wanted to be as a father was absent, and that's the first thing that I was.
Wow. Yeah, I think a lot of people take that for granted, and I think that that's probably one of the biggest things with men and women that serve is like family is kind of second, right?
Well,
I mean, it's God country.
Depends on which family you're asking about.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I told you, like, all those guys, we were all left behind by our dads. Honestly, the black sheep, 2nd Platoon Alpha Company, 275 is like the first family I ever felt like I ever really fit into, and so.
Well, you probably spend more time with them than you do your immediate family, right? Like that's
absolutely
part of it.
Yeah. I mean, you're together almost 24/7, and then you get into when the GWAT really started kicking, you're just in the cycle. You're either deployed, recovering from deployment, i.e. here's 2 weeks, and then training up for the next deployment. Like you're just in the cycle, and then you're deployed again. And so it's just this constant cycle, and that continuous touch point are the men to your left and right.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I was torn. And, this is something that in that time, I told Kelly, I don't have a choice here. And whether I did or didn't is really irrelevant, because the truth is that I was going to be damned if I was going to miss leading my Rangers in combat. And so, like, I knew I put myself in that position in many ways. Mm-hmm. And again, like I've said before to others, it's like when you're a young Ranger, like you want so badly to be deemed mission critical, but then when you're an absentee father and an absent husband, it kind of loses its luster. But I lied about it. And I just said like, it's the way it is. But
it's the job.
But the truth is that, my platoon sergeant Chad, me and him in the hallway, I'll never forget this. He walks up to me. He's like, yo, I know you got a baby on the way, but we really need you. And I was like, I'm going. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
But I lied about it. I tried, I this, I that. And that was one of the things that, haunted me for a long time. Truly.
God, man. I made decisions like that in my life before. How do you deal with that or cope with that later on in life? Like what helps?
Well, that comes much later in the story.
Okay. All right. So we'll keep going and we'll circle back to that then.
No, I mean,
do you need another water? We got.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. Thank you. You can keep that on the table though too. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
If you got something special in there, bring your own vodka.
Don't threaten me.
We got
with a good
plenty
time.
of that too.
My man. No, yeah. I mean, how, in a word, how do you deal with that? Faith. That was a big part of our story on the back end of this.
Where's your faith in going into combat or deploying to Afghanistan at that point? Is it is it strong faith background, or because this is something that I bounce back and forth on personally, like all the time.
Yeah, there's a word for that. It's normal.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're normal.
Yeah.
So I was raised in a non-practicing Jewish home. So my father, he was raised in an Episcopalian environment, but he converted to marry my mother. And so what you understand as a Jew is that if you are born by the blood of a Jewish womb, you are a Jew. And so I had that reminded to me my whole life. And I always had this kind of attunement, like, okay, cool. Like, so like, tell me about what that means in terms of our relationship to God. And it's like, no, shut up. You're a Jew. That's all you need to know. And I'm like, okay, cool. But, you know, I'm like 11 wondering, like, is this what life is all about? You know, like being left behind and being made to feel worthless. What the hell? I knew that I couldn't look to my earthly father. So I think I always kind of looked to a heavenly father, and I always felt like I knew that there was a God. I knew he was there. I didn't really know what that meant. And I knew that I was a Jew, and that's what I knew. And so going into combat, I was like, yeah, there's, 100%. I mean, I would recite Psalm 23 on the bird before every target, though I walk through the valley of shadow of the death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and thy staff, they comfort me. I mean, this is like literally like 30 seconds preparation. I'm
Really?
like on it. Oh, hell yeah.
Was the whole team doing that at that point?
I
Or
was doing it.
You were doing it?
Just in
Okay.
my head, right?
Wow.
A lot of guys, I have learned had that same experience or a similar experience.
Such a badass verse, especially if you're going into combat.
It's dope, man.
Yeah.
Like, it's dope. And so I had one of my Rangers pull me aside. I just went to this 2nd Ranger Battalion's 50th anniversary of the modern day Ranger Battalion. And he's like, do you remember that prayer that you read to us prior to our first mission in the Mirkapar Valley? I'm like, yeah, it was the War Prayer by Mark Twain. He's like, dude, 20 years I've been trying to remember what that is. But I was kind of a cheese ball, but I took out, I'm just like, help us rip the enemy to shreds and everything like that. So, you are on the tip of the spear, the tip of the spear, right? Mm-hmm. You're the sharp edge. You're going into it, and you're just looking to see what happens next, and knowing that I can't go in this alone. So that's where my faith was at the time.
Did you do any? Because this is something that I've just gotten into recently. I can't even remember exactly where I heard this. I don't know if I heard it on a podcast or if it was personally. This was a few years ago. Have you read anything about the Knights of the Templar? Like the Crusaders and stuff like that?
So in my
Catholic Church? And
yes,
okay.
A little bit. So in my seminary experience, so much later on, I ended up going to Denver Seminary, graduated with a Master's of Divinity with an emphasis in leadership, and did a little bit of study into some of the history and the historical context. There's actually a fascinating book called God's Battalions.
Okay.
And they
I'll
have
check that out.
They have a really interesting and different vantage point on
Pull that up, Jeremy, real quick.
the genesis of it. Prior to, most people just say like the Crusades, and they're like, oh, this is my proof point.
There's
of how,
so much more
of
to
how
it
terrible the
once you
Christians
start
are,
going
and you're just
into
like,
it.
okay. Well, did you know that the Crusaders started out as escorts to Christian pilgrims who were trying to go worship God in the Holy Land, and they kept getting slaughtered? And so that's how the Crusaders started.
Yeah.
Right? Is they were actually protectors. And so anyways.
There's much more to it than that. They were actually one of the better parts of the church, or a better role model of the church than the actual church themselves. And like the popes and the people in power were taking
absolutely.
Like, I don't want to go down too much of a rabbit hole, but they were taking advantage of people's livelihoods, even the church itself and God itself. Mm-hmm. And the knights were actually the ones that were kind of
it was a
the real protectors and the real servants, I guess.
Dark time, dark time.
I'll have to dive into this.
Dark time in the history of the church. This guy Rodney Stark, he's a sociologist by trade as well as a theologian, which I think that's why I connected with it so much. So I call myself an accidental sociologist, but an intentional theologist.
Okay.
Because I actually do have a sociology bachelor's because I just had to get the fastest degree I could get so I could get out of the military and start medical sales.
Okay.
But I chose and it was sociology.
Really? That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fascinating. It's a fascinating story. Even if you aren't religious or don't, I mean, it's mind blowing.
Yeah.
And there's so many similarities to what's going on today and in today's military.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
It's a deep stuff going on there.
Yeah.
Like most things in life, the soundbite version, what we used to call back when we were younger, the Reader's Digest version, it's not going to tell you all the nuance and complexity that's going on there.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot.
There's a lot, and we live in that day and age, and we're just as guilty of doing it here. I mean, we make these like short clips, and people they'll comment on the short clips. Those things get millions of views.
Yeah.
And the podcast gets 10% of that.
Yep.
Viewership wise. Now, on the audio download side, it depends on who the guest is. But my point is, people comment on those clips, and they're like, "Well, why don't you tell the rest of the story?" I'm like, why don't you go and listen to the full 3-hour podcast?
Link in comments still. Totally.
Yeah. It's crazy.
But that's how
people are just so used to it and ingrained that they're like.
That's how people get taken out of context too.
Right. Yeah.
Right. You take all these clips out of context. I mean, shit, man. Like somebody could chop up anything you and I are saying and then say like, oh,
they did it with Ben when he was in. Like we were talking just about like how much help he got leaving the SEALs and comparative to, man, did he get lambasted? Just in the comments section.
Oh, I didn't see that. I
don't read the comments anyways, but
I usually don't.
Yeah. It's not healthy for you.
No, I mean, it's like, and also, if it was if one of my buddies came to me and said like, hey, you misrepresented us or this or that, I'll listen to that.
Right.
If some knucklehead, puts on a comment something stupid, like I don't really care what that guy has to say.
Some of these, I guess I do address only the legitimate ones. So it was like from the community, and I was like, no, wait a minute, go and listen to exactly
Slow
what
your
he
roll,
said.
homie.
Maybe we didn't. You can only fit so much in a 1-minute clip, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, and it's designed to pull people in.
Yeah, a little bit. I've taken a different approach, and we've actually kind of had some success. I've wanted it to be, whether I'm creating them myself or somebody's helping me create them, I want it to be to portray the guest in the best light that we can in 1 minute.
Yeah.
As opposed to kind of like a trailer for the guest.
Yeah.
Right? Like what's important to them. Like,
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. Or whatever they have going on. That's my philosophy, because I was very anti it. Like we didn't do it for the first like 3 or 4 years. And then it was kind of like, why aren't you taking advantage of this?
Yeah.
It was explained to me. It was like, well, if you want the podcast to grow, we need to get on board with what some other people are doing. And I've had fun with it, but I've done it my own way.
Yeah. I think it comes through.
Okay. That's good.
I think it comes through. Like, it's so funny. I think the first time that I got keyed into the Mountainside podcast is after Dustin's last fight where he just blew that dude up. I mean,
that was freaking amazing.
That was one of the most incredible knockouts. That's got to be like one of the best knockouts.
Don't tell Dustin this. Well, he's going to hear it. I was a little bit mad at him. I was like sitting on my couch like, dude, like let it go. Be Dustin Jacoby. I was like, something's up with him.
Man.
And then third round.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
It was really cool because,
like
I get a kind of a neat view at some of this stuff because, like I'll come home and I see the pads drying out in the sun and, I'll chop it up with Dustin for, a dinner or whatever. And I wasn't surprised at all by the way that he handled that fight. I was surprised by you could not have had a more perfect delivery right on the button. I think that's what, was it Michael Bisping? Right on the button.
Yeah.
Just totally rocked him.
That was so badass, man.
But so to the point of these clips though, is that I I kept like opening up Instagram and like Dustin was just like all up in my feed, right?
Yeah.
And like that's cool. But I kept seeing like the mountainside clips that you guys
nice.
were doing, and I was like, "Oh man, this is dope!" Like, and it drew me in, and I went to it because I'm like, I guess partially because yes, you could see that it was Dustin being shined in a good light, but again, having like this different vantage point, like he's not just a guy on a screen. He's my neighbor who watches my dog Daisy, you know, sometimes.
I want the people to feel like some of the guests that we've turned down for certain reasons, well, really just because they weren't good people. I want this to feel like any one of the listeners could run into any of my guests and they'd be well received.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or have a conversation with them themselves.
Well, and to that point, Bobby, like I could look at that and say like, oh, that's totally Dustin right there. Like that is 100% my friend Dustin.
Yeah.
So I'll listen to that podcast because that,
that makes me feel good.
This isn't like some bullshit,
Right.
So I think I love it.
I think podcasts too get kind of cookie cutter. Like this is why I stopped listening to other ones because they started to influence me
There it is.
in a point. Yeah.
It's the coolest.
Oh, it's so good.
I just want to say
We're gonna get copyright struck though for.
I turned it down.
Yeah, we had to do all kinds of different stuff to make those clips, and then apps, and then they still got copyright struck.
I love this.
God, man, he's so awesome.
Oh gosh, that was like
It felt so good, and like it's a different.
so
When I
good.
just watch a fight night and I don't know anybody that's on the card personally, I'm just kind of like half tuned in. But
yeah,
God, the moment that a Factory X fighter walks out there,
Dude.
because I'm so ingrained with that jam,
Yeah.
and then now with Genesis as well, like
so cool.
it's so
It's
cool.
a different experience, right?
Oh, it's a totally different experience. It's like you actually feel the pain of a loss a little bit, or I do, because you're pulling for these guys so hard, like to watch one of Dustin's teammates. Well, to watch Dustin win this fight.
Yeah, and then Cody a couple months later.
Cody, yeah.
Oh
Do you
my
know
God.
Cody?
I don't really. I met him at a barbecue.
Great
once.
dude. Great
very
dude.
nice guy.
Yeah.
And anytime Dustin tells me that hey, I'm going to corner dude, I'm like, all right, like let's flip it on. So
Yeah, hell yeah.
you want to talk about one of the gutsiest fights I've ever seen? Cody's fight, like
Man, that was crazy too.
two mouthpieces getting like blasted out, and you're just sitting there like I'm like biting, like, oh my gosh, is it gonna happen? Like what's gonna happen? And then like, wow.
So
like,
I'm sitting in
gutsy.
San Francisco, and it's a rehearsal day for us on a show floor.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, you could hear a pin drop in this place because it's like before anybody had walked in, like before clients walk in, and I'm watching his fight. And I just lost myself. I was like, yeah, after he got that knock, I was like, let's fucking go. I'm like standing on the show floor, like watching on my iPad, and everybody's looking at me like, what's wrong with
both
that,
of those
dude?
fights though, man. Like it was insane. Like when Dustin got that knockout, like I about hit the ceiling. Like no joke. I was like jumping up and down. I was like screaming. I was so excited. Cody, I was just like, whoa. Like that, like nothing but respect. That was gutsy.
It's so heavy, man. It's fun to watch. I'm glad to see those guys thriving. I always like it when they thrive. On the downside, it's a bummer when they lose, man. You like
That's the worst.
Sometimes I don't know what to say to them. I'm like,
Yeah. It sucks.
just try to be honest with them.
Yeah. It's like,
But I'm no
love
like
you, bro.
pro either.
Yeah, like, I don't-
yeah, got your back.
Yeah, man. Like it's
Still a fan. Whatever.
that
you know?
sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. More wins for Factory X.
Yeah, I think
That's my bid.
with the guests that I have on too, we've had so many former military guys, whether they're veterans or whatever. I think that fighters and guys that have served at your level, there's a lot of similarities there too. And just,
Yeah.
even though they're the most alpha of men doing the most alpha things, they don't need to prove that to anybody, it seems like. And that's why I enjoy having fighters in and guys like you, is like, you really do get the genuine truth.
Yeah.
Those guys, they're not afraid to tell you when you're wrong,
Yeah.
which is a good thing.
Well, you
I
have
think
to
it's a lost
in that
art in
environment.
today's communities.
Yeah.
It's like people are scared to say anything
I think so. It's one
to your face. Anyways.
certainly one of the most. So what we do in our business, Applied Leadership Partners, is that we we do a lot of leadership development. And one of the most common or one of the most requested modules that we do is difficult conversations. How do I have difficult conversations with people? And here are the barriers that's probably keeping you from it, and here's an effective framework that's going to help you get through it. So,
Yeah, there's nothing worse than that, like having a conversation you don't want to have. Because I think that mental hurdles are always more daunting to me than anything physical that I have to put myself through.
yeah,
Like sometimes I'm kind of looking for physical pain
sure,
every once in a while,
I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But then on the flip side, it's like, God, the simple things to do, like just have a conversation with somebody, can be fucking hard sometimes. Like,
can be.
so this is kind of like going back to faith and that sort of stuff, and you going into combat, and then not being there while your son was born. How do you kind of balance that in your faith, or where were you at then? Because I think that's.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm getting too personal right now to ask that
No,
question.
brother. No,
Okay.
not at all. You're good. You're good.
But I'm curious for myself because
Yeah, the truth is, there was no version of my Ranger story that ended with me living in my mind. That's the truth. So when I was older than 25, I was kind of like, well, that's a shocker. I'm not really sure what to do with this now, because I thought I'd die by 25. That's the truth. Is I think it went back to that childhood experience as well. You know, I think that when your dad leaves you, or at least I should just stay in my own circle and say what I feel I learned a sense of worthlessness. And so I learned that other people got that kind of love and worth from their fathers, and and I guess that they deserve that, but I don't. But I can protect and defend other Americans' ability to do that. And so I know my place, and I know that my place is to be on the front lines, and your place is to be, with your family and loved. And so come what may, that's what I'm, seeking.
And you thought at that point that you wouldn't make it to 25? Is that
No chance.
really?
No chance.
When did you first start having those thoughts? Was that from an early age, or was that when you started going into combat and seeing what was happening around you? Or
Oh no, back when I was a young guy, I was asking questions like, why am I here if this is how shitty life is? Like, this sucks. Like, I don't want this. I don't want to live like this. And so I figured that it would just kind of happen. I just kind of figured that I would go to war and die for my country, and maybe that would be enough to make me worth something.
do you think that mindset helped you in becoming a ranger, and then almost kind of being fearless? Because I think it kind of sounds like you weren't fearful of death, and I think a lot of warriors kind of have that mindset, and it kind of comes from stoicism a little bit, right? It's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
I think that I think that you have a certain propensity. You have this blend of natural disposition plus life experiences that start to sharpen you in a way, like an arrow point, and it starts to point you towards that target where I know that I am built for an expeditionary life, a warrior life, and I'm headed in that direction. Then when you get into it, I said earlier that I tell people this all the time. I know that you want to be a ranger, or insert any other, special operations, but I'll speak from my experience. I know that you want to be a ranger. You need to know why you have to be a ranger. I knew why I had to be a ranger. Because when the pain comes at Coal Range, which is an otherwise completely indistinct 200-yard by 200-yard plot of land in the backwoods of Fort Benning, Georgia, but that is the place where millions of dreams have been shattered and thousands of lives have been forged. And the difference between the two is you have to know why. Why do I have to be here? Why do I have to go through this? Because it comes and it does not stop. It is relentless when you go through assessment and selection. It is a painful process, and you will question everything.
Does that apply to applied leadership when you're teaching these skills?
To
kind of have that mindset
100%.
In business?
Oh, 100%.
Like undeniable?
Got to know your purpose.
Okay.
Yeah. What is your mission? What is your vision? What is the image of a greater future that you are trying to get to?
Mm-hmm.
What is the mission? Like, what are you going to do in order to accomplish that vision? And then what are the values that you're going to anchor to, right? So that when times get difficult, you can fall back on that, right? So look at the Rangers, for example. When the war started, we kind of had our feet in two worlds. It was Premier Light Infantry, Special Operations. And it was kind of like, how do we navigate this space, right? And we didn't know what we didn't know about where we needed to go. We basically learned in the first couple years of the war, and it's really interesting.
Well, it came up kind of quick, right? Like,
it was like that, and the thing about it was, it all happened through this lens. And I tell this story when we talk to businesses about cultures of excellence. Is like I call it the Tale of Two Berets. We had black berets. And then in the summer of 2001, the Chief of Staff of the Army gave the black beret to everybody in the Army. Mm. And it was like, we felt like everybody who went to the Olympics got a gold medal. We're like, what the hell? Like the blood, sweat, tears, toil that we went through to get that. Because you got to understand, there's only 3,000 Rangers, right?
Yeah.
In a force of, in a military of 1.5 million. You knew exactly who a Ranger was because you could see that black beret anywhere you were at. So we changed. We said, well, can we take the tan beret then? We got approval for that. So we changed from the black.
Was it infantry tan beret prior to that?
No,
okay.
No. They didn't wear any berets.
No berets.
No berets. Yeah. So they awarded us the tan beret. So I stood in formation June of 2001. Took the tan berets out, took the black berets off, put on our tan berets. We had no idea how symbolic that would be of a radical cultural shift, capabilities shift, combat shift, everything,
experience shift.
Because we became, just like the stalwart wrecking crew.
That's
in the
crazy.
GWAT, right?
Yeah.
You like. The number of, I think, and whatever, everyone talks like, it's like I'm not trying to like chest thump here, but like I do believe
but you're a Ranger.
Yeah, but I'm a Ranger. These are my people. This is my tribe. But I think we've eliminated the most high value targets. We certainly were the longest deployed. And some of the missions that we did. I talk about one of them in the book, in Winter Strike, which you talked about a little bit in 2003. It was a crazy experience, and I'll never forget the look on everybody's face when we came back from the mountains. Again, dude, we had lost 20, 30 pounds up in the mountains. Mm-hmm. It was...
Did you guys do any sort of like 10th mountain training or anything like that? Like what those guys do, like any sort of skiing or mountaineering or anything prior to that?
You get some mountaineering experience in Ranger School.
Okay.
And then you just... In the training missions, you do some, different, I wouldn't say you do a whole lot of climbing or mountaineering. That's more specialized to certain people who then bring it back and can say like, okay, if we have to set up an A-frame or whatever, this is what it's going to look like. Or if you have to set up a rope bridge across a stream, it's very basic in that regard. But no, man, but we were doing like some sick mountaineering that was hyper dangerous with like 80 pound rucksacks and, machine guns and everything. Like, like, what are we doing?
Fortunately, I've never been to Afghanistan, but from what I've heard, like the terrain, the mountains are very similar to like Colorado or New Mexico. Like you have pine trees. It's a high desert, right? Like
walk right outside this studio and you will be in exactly what Afghanistan looks like for the most part. Yeah, especially in the northern area, Hindu Kush mountain range.
Yeah.
Largest mountain range in the world. Like I show people, I have this certain picture where it's like snowy and everything like that. And I show it to some people and they're like, oh, this is like a World War II picture. I'm like, no, that's us in Afghanistan in 2003. This is in Norway or something. And people are like, phew.
Yeah, because I think like just the association, like a lot of people didn't. I mean, I didn't know about Afghanistan until prior.
Yeah.
I mean, until that war started kicking off.
Right.
And then you just associate it. I mean, this might sound racist or whatever, but you just associate it with Iraq in the desert. And like, that's all we knew from desert.
You're like, okay, I've seen Aladdin. I know where we're going.
Yeah. It's the desert.
Not like that at all.
Not like that at all.
No, it's crazy. It's wild. I mean, there are some desert areas in the South for sure. I didn't spend a whole lot of time in them. But I spent almost all of my time up in the Konar province, Nuristan province.
And that was the heavy
Pesh River Valley,
zones, right?
Like, I think, the overwhelming majority of congressional medals of honor that were awarded in Afghanistan were awarded in valleys off the Pesh River Valley. And that's where we were operating in that. And so, I mean, things got going and it just kept going. I said like we thought we were all boo-boo lipped, like we missed the war because that's what our expectation was.
After your first rotation home or
when we were in Jordan.
Okay.
Right, so I'm like we missed the war. They gave it to third bat, damn third bat. Right. And then we had no idea, man. It was like kids who want ice cream, and then all of a sudden you had too much, and your belly is, sore, and it's
a great analogy.
You got a head freeze because, come the end or the middle of 2003. So I had to pull. So I went in 2002. Came back. That's when I missed my son's birth. Came back and, you had mentioned, like, I had a lot of personal stuff going on. I didn't actually mention this in the book, but I'll mention it here with you, Bobby, is that I got home from Afghanistan. Now, I had missed my son's birth. I think he might have been 21 days old, something like that. And 2 weeks later, I had to leave Washington State, Fort Lewis, to go down to NCO school at Fort Benning. So I've been gone. Now get home, and you have a couple months in between cycles where you start prepping for the next gig, and they're like, "Yeah, you're going to NCO school because you got promoted and everything." I'm like, "Can we not like push this off?" Like, no, like you're going to NCO school. Like the machine keeps moving.
Is this where you had to move from?
We moved. Well,
you were moving somewhere, right?
I went down to. So I just said we actually were moving at the time, and so I just said, forget it. I just packed everything up into like a storage area, and I just like rented a apartment for Kelly and Jaden to come down, and I was like, I just have to deal with it, right? Get back from that, and then we go straight into the train up, which the way it works is like you're just gone, you're doing all your your fixed wing bilat trainings, your rotary wing bilats, JRXs, joint readiness exercise, EDREs, all these different things. You're doing all these training things, so you're just never really there. You're there for it's like a consistent like honeymoon, like, oh hey, I'm back, yay, and then it's like 2 weeks later, you're like, who the hell is this guy,
Right.
So then you just leave again, and you just get used to leaving, and so then I left the day after Christmas in 2002 to go back to Afghanistan. While I'm in Afghanistan, so this is Charlie Company, 2nd Ranger Battalion, plus a platoon from Alpha Company. So we had 4 platoons full up. The war starts in Iraq. So 3rd Ranger Battalion was supposed to come and rotate us out in place. we've been there now for 3 months. In a special operations unit, you have shorter deployments, higher operational tempo. So you cycle every about 100 days, like 3 months, right?
So in that 100 days, how much? Sorry, I don't want to stop you, but how much are you guys going out? Like, are you going targets every night? Or
We're in the outstations almost consistently. And so, again, this is the beginning of the war, right? So, I mean, what I did more than anything else was a lot of, frankly, like bread and butter rangering, like long range patrolling, route reconnaissance. We would do compound hits. We would do assaults when they presented themselves, when targets presented themselves. But more than anything, I mean, dude, like the amount of tread I have worn off of boots in Afghanistan is not even funny. Like we were just out, pursuing the enemy. And we were like the first place that we went to, actually this is the second place. The first place we went was like really odd. It was like very quick, very odd because we get there and the guys that were rolling with us were like mujahideen from fighting the Russian incursion in the 80s.
Really?
So you got these cats who are...
Oh, I bet you they had some fucking stories. Huh?
Dude, to talk about it, right? Like, I mean, we think we're like, as my therapist likes to say, king shit of fuck mountain, and these cats are like, they've been in it their whole lives. And these dudes were like 40, 50.
Yeah, and there's no enlistment at 18.
No,
the recruiter's not turning them
no.
away. They're snatched out of their beds at 8, 9 years old.
And yeah, you could tell this cat had this AK in his hand for a very long time. And
that's crazy.
So we were like rolling with them. That was like super bizarre.
Yeah.
And then
can that get a little bit dangerous too? I mean, do they have like good safety awareness or safety practice? Like, because that's one thing. Like, when you're around a bunch of guns and machine
you just don't
guns,
know.
Yeah, you don't know, man. Like,
yeah, that's probably why
I mean, it could be an accidental.
It was weird.
You know what I mean?
It was weird.
Yeah,
it was just weird because like we never really engaged with others outside of that JSOC package. And even
you're dealing with professionals, and these guys.
Well,
are
and even in that, you have
yeah.
a lot of like natural, almost like sibling rivalry, and so like Rangers, we're kind of like notoriously like, we don't like anybody, right?
So, fuck everyone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, it was really weird having that. But then, the next place we were at is this fire base in Lawara. So, I mean, literally, it's just like a compound. One compound, basically, you could call it on the Afghan side, doesn't really matter. Borders don't mean anything over there. You talk to the locals, whenever we did interact minimally, it was like, where are we at? Like Pakistan. Okay. And so you're just like, what is happening? And just doing continuous patrols, getting out there, you'd, set up in a hide and just kind of observe, see what's going on. And it was just us, and I think there was like an ODA team out there, Green Berets, a couple of 3-letter agency dudes, one guy named Fat Tony that everyone was like, that dude looks like he has killed more people than
like a mobster name too.
Well, that's why we called him Fat Tony.
Okay.
We were like, this cat was walking around in like Vietnam era pants, OG 107s, Teva sandals, had like a pistol hanging off his hip. Never wore a shirt, always like bare, like gray hair. And we're just like, all I know is this. When we ball someone up and bring them to Fat Tony,
they talk. Huh?
You don't, all you know is you probably ain't going to see that guy again.
Oh, right.
And you don't want to know. I'm just like, I don't want to know, man. I don't want to know.
Yeah.
That's what it was like. It was wild.
That's crazy, man. That's just we live such a sheltered life here. Unless you've been to some third world countries or seen
it's wild, dude.
some of the or heard firsthand accounts of some of the evil that's out there in the world. It's fucking for real, man. Like
it's wild.
Yeah.
And the the thing that
we're just driving down the road in our Teslas, stopping at Starbucks drive-thrus and doing podcasts and fucking whatever else we do. It's crazy.
It is wild. And in that season of my life, we had, so the Pesh River Valley road was what we called it Route Blue, right? So you have all like phase lines and routes and stuff like that. And you generally use a certain coding paradigm so that when you're speaking on the radio, it's not, unless you know what they're talking about. If you don't know what they're talking about, then you have no clue what road they're talking about. But we called it IED Alley. So improvised explosive device, roadside bombs, because we had so many mine strikes, so many killed vehicles. American service members had been killed there before our deployment, and so we were like, okay, we better take this seriously.
They're going into the shit.
So you never drive Route Blue during the daytime. You just don't do it.
Oh, really?
Hell no. You drive blacked out under IR, nods, your night
because
optical device.
Somebody's actually hitting a trigger?
Absolutely.
Oh, really? Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, they would command detonate it with cell phones.
Wow.
So that's how we would ball dudes up all the time. Is we would ball people up if they had a cell phone or blasting caps or any kind of like explosive oriented stuff. Like they used to use these little white clocks that they would set it on timers sometimes. I was in Lawara, for example. We were coming back in from a patrol, and I mean, my point man walked right up on a string of 107 rockets rigged on time delay firing device with these little white Afghan clocks, wires and everything like that, just pointed right there at our fire base, right? And so you're like, whew, that was lucky. But most of the time...
What do you guys have for like EOD out there with you and stuff? Do you guys have...
You have blocks of C4 in your kit, and you have...
That has to be fun.
Oh, dude, blowing stuff up is a lot of fun.
Yeah. I love blowing shit up, dude.
We blew a lot of shit up.
I bet. That's like the next level of blowing shit up. That's fucking awesome.
So I got to be the master breacher of Charlie Company's 2nd Ranger Battalion.
Oh, really?
So, I mean, we were doing like ECT shots. Have you ever heard of explosive cutting tape?
Yes.
Badass.
Like to go through a door or a wall,
Absolutely.
right?
Door,
like
wall.
it'll blow a hole through a center block wall, right?
Well, you can, yes.
Yeah.
You can use a big 5400 grain, or there's another one called now we're really getting into it. Ranger wall breach. So you've got like 6 blocks of C4, particularly spaced out, because what happens is there's this when it detonates, there's something called Mach stem bridging, Mach stem interaction, where you have two shock waves that will bounce off each other and amplify the force. So it'll blow a big ass hole into a wall.
Wow.
Right. So
the charges are meeting each other.
That's right.
Basically, right?
Yeah.
Or the forces.
The forces are meeting each other.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. The jet. Because when you explode, it goes into two components, jet and spall. This is completely irrelevant.
No, this is fucking awesome. Let's go, dude.
We blew a lot of shit up.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're like walking up on it, and you're just like, okay. But most of the time, I mean, especially when we were in Asadabad, Asadabad was just like a shithole rocket magnet of a fire base. I mean, we got mortared, rocketed, RPG'd many times a week. I mean, that was kind of that was it. I mean, you got to a point where you might be asleep and you'd hear, like a big boom. And at first you're like, oh, like incoming, doing all the react to contact stuff, blah, blah, blah. You do everything. And then, I mean, bro, we were there for 10 weeks, so after like, I don't know, 2 weeks, you hear the big boom and you're kind of like, is that incoming or outgoing? It's outgoing. All right.
Yeah.
You just kind of get numb to it,
Wow.
You learn when you're in assessment and selection and you're in all these hard training circumstances, because we train as we fight, you learn the conditioning of indifference. I am effectively indifferent to the fear, the pain that I'm experiencing. It's not that I'm not experiencing it. I am experiencing it. It's not that fear is not there. But in order for your job to be one in which you are required to kick in doors and close with and destroy the enemies in our country, you have to be conditioned to a certain level of indifference to that. It's wholly unnatural for somebody to be in a position where you are, let's say, not exposed and you're safe, to then get up and go into a building where there are people there waiting to kill you. That is a wholly unnatural human experience. So how do you do it? you
Becomes a
must
motor
become
skill,
indifferent. Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
You train it to precision so that when the time comes, you execute. You hear it all the time, your training takes over, you execute. It's not that you didn't feel it. Well, let me say this. You didn't feel it at the time. You'll feel it later.
Mm-hmm.
You will pay for it later. I remember saying that to my squad. We came back from the first rotation, and everybody got a chance to go on leave and go home, and then we come back together, and I took the boys out for breakfast. And we were sitting there on breakfast, and it was kind of like, everyone's giving each other shit, normal stuff, whatever. And then finally, things got a little quiet, and I just said, "Hey, I'm not feeling great. Does it feel a little weird to anybody else? Because I'm just not feeling great, if I'm going to be totally honest." And it was just like, oh, fucking open up the gates, man. Everyone was just like, I feel like, I don't know. It's like I get tight in my chest. It's like I can't stand like going to the mall. I don't want to be in, large groups. Like I just like people ask me questions. I just want to, be off on my own. And in that time, I really wrapped my head around the reality that, you stuffed it in a box, but it's still there in that box. You're going to pay for it eventually.
Yeah.
We'll all pay for it eventually. We will all deal with it eventually. And I think that's what a lot of the, I got out in 2009, and I think that a lot of my journey has been understanding or getting clear on what's there to deal with and work with.
Because you're just there dealing with it at the time that you're
in it.
You're in it, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What do you, because you're in it, and because you're trained to move forward and execute and just be on target and have no flaws and so many things, that's got to feel good when you're accomplishing stuff or things are going down. It's got to feel good in the moment. To me, it's a very rock and roll job. Like I always say that there's like rock and roll jobs. Like being a helicopter pilot is a rock and roll job. Being in the military is a rock and roll job. There are levels to that shit too. I think like going in on mini birds or fast roping into a target and hitting a target, being in supreme shape around supreme people.
Yeah, man.
With the best weaponry that you can have under night vision is so fucking rock and roll. That,
man.
Like,
I
think it's fucking cool.
Yeah. We're at Led Zeppelin level here.
Yeah. And not only that,
we're really doing it.
You are ridding the world of horrible people.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Trying to.
Yes. Trying to. For the greater good. So like, it's just like, let's go. This is AC/DC, whatever it is. This is all the pyrotechnics.
This is the pinnacle, man.
Right?
Yeah, that's right.
So that's got to feel good. Is some of that when you come back to like civilian life or you're going to the mall, like there's just no excitement? Like there's nothing that can, like, nobody can understand your humor. Nobody can understand where you want to be. You can't share what you've done, right? Because a lot of it is protecting those around you or those guys that are still in. Like,
yeah. I will tell you that, at least from my experience, there has been no substance that is quite so addictive as the raw and extreme power of being at the tip of America's spear. That is true rock and roll, my friend. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's at least in my experience, right? I mean, it is so intoxicating. It is so addictive. And for me, yes, I'm a little bit of my disposition is that I crave intensity. It's just the way that I'm kind of knit together, right? You'll not find much intensity like that. Coming in off a bird, I was actually just talking to a buddy of mine, Marty Blaine, and I were on a ruck march together. We were just kind of walking, getting some movement in. And Marty was like, "It's just nothing like being on a bird that's flaring on target." And all of us were like, "Dude,
yeah,
And you just know the power that you have in your hands. It is the power of life and death. You can take another human being's life based on your decisions. And what I don't think gets talked about very much, but I will add to this conversation, is that what I am far more proud of is how much restraint my Rangers showed on the X. That's, I think, nobody talks about that. This is kind of a subject that it's not. People don't want to know about that. People ask like stupid questions that.
Well, this is the perfect spot to bring it up. Then, yeah.
Well, the deal. I mean, and I've heard you address this on other podcasts with other guests, which I appreciate. Like, people always ask, what should I or not say? Should not say? Well, don't ask a veteran how many people they've killed. Like,
don't ask stupid questions.
That's a stupid question. It's rude. It's presumptuous. It's voyeuristic. And what you don't understand is how much mental, emotional, and spiritual depth is even behind that question. Mm-hmm. What people know,
especially if you have faith, man. I would think, right? Like now, because now you're. Yeah, I'll let you finish.
Well, just the whole point is that one of the things that I dug quite a bit into when I was getting my MDiv is moral injury. You have a lot of moral injury. So I was in seminaries 2021. The horrific withdrawal from Afghanistan unfolds in front of all of us, and
Crazy.
within a couple of days, two of my former Rangers, were dead. One due to a alcohol-related incident, another took his life. And you look at that, and people say, you look at the suicide and the epidemic of suicide with veterans and things like that. How much moral injury is bound up in that experience? I think we're just scratching the surface of it right now, because what you do is you ask yourself, did I do the right thing? Can I trust myself to do the right thing? Can I trust others to do the right thing with me or to me? It all gets bound up in that. And the experience of the withdrawal of Afghanistan, what happened is that so many of us, I mean, the amount of phone calls, I mean, the weeks after that shit show started to unfold,
complete shit show,
we were all just on the phone with each other, and you're reminding guys, we did our job. In the end of the day, we don't set policy. We don't get into policy debates. We do our job. And I was on those targets with you, and you did your job, and you did it well. And we came home, and we did some good over there.
Yeah.
I reject any notion that we did not.
That's the other thing too. There's so many narratives that can be split and sent, and I think one narrative that doesn't get told enough is, that, like I said, and I brought it up with Ben and Doc Kate Pate. Do you know Doc Kate by chance?
I don't know her personally, but
Okay.
I loved that episode.
You need to talk to her.
Yeah.
She's fucking awesome.
I'm super
woman.
curious if she's involved in any way with the Marcus Institute for Brain Health.
I'm not sure, but
They're
I'd be
here
glad
on-
to connect you guys.
They're here on the Anschutz campus in Colorado.
Okay.
That's where I went. I went to a 3-week intensive outpatient program for
really?
post-traumatic stress disorder and traumatic brain injuries. Yeah.
Wow.
I would totally love
Is it
to.
helpful?
Dude,
Yeah.
amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, those people, they know what they're doing.
I'll connect you with
Please,
her for
yeah.
sure, because I think
Shout out to Kate. Good job.
Yeah. Doc Kate is fucking amazing.
I don't know you, but you seem
so,
great.
So lucky to have met her, and it was actually through a buddy of mine that's a former SF,
Yep.
Green Beret,
Yep.
just fucking awesome guy. Shout out to Jeremiah Wilbur. He's doing amazing things with his nonprofit now. But to that point, you are too, man. Like your leadership programs, your book,
Yeah.
all this sort of stuff. You guys hold, yourself at such a high regard that I think like failure's not an option, that sort of thing. I'm starting to put a little bit of a correlation. I guess this is more of a question and it's just thinking out loud, really. It's what I do in here a lot.
Yeah.
But I think that guys are so hard on themselves. Like, I'm my own worst critic, and I've never served or anything like that. But I've taken that mindset from some people that I look up to, and I would say out of all my friends, you know, the guys that have served in special operations and stuff are so hard on themselves.
Yeah.
In so many different ways, right? So I think there's like, when you start talking about that moral, what you call it?
Injury.
Moral injury, which is a great way to put it. Yeah.
Sorry, you just lost one.
Okay. Let's just go to 3 for a minute because I don't want to lose my train of thought here.
Sorry about that, buddy.
Oh, no, you're all good. So moral injury, do you think like some of that is that I can't say this word. Self-introspection. Is that? No.
Introspection?
Introspection, yeah. Big dumb guys talking here.
Don't you do that to yourself, Bobby. I'm not going to let you do it.
I'm being hard on myself. I'm being
I
my
know.
own critic.
I'm like, come on. I'm like, I'm totally into this.
Right.
Like, yeah, I got you.
But when you start bringing up those questions and then you're so hard on yourself as a person, do you think that that's sometimes what might cross that threshold into taking your own life? You know?
Yeah. I mean, I think that
I think everybody's situation is different. Let's just
so
start
too,
there.
but I think generally speaking, some commonalities are loss of hope and loss of perspective. And the amount of questions that you ask of yourself, that bottomless question of why, for example, that you go down that road, I think it could lead to that. I think it's really hard. I think, we have programs to address your body. You break a leg, you go to the doctor, it gets healed. We have programs if you experience post-traumatic stress disorder, you go to a therapist, go to a trauma-informed therapist. Where do you go when you injure your soul? And that's where I think the faith community comes into play. When we talk about spiritual fitness, this is a connection to God, a higher power, others, nature around you. You feel it, right? Like there's something happening there that you can't quite put your finger on. We sustain wounds to that aspect of our person. We need to also talk about that, and we need to work through that. And I think that's where some of the work that I had done with moral injury while I was at seminary really came into full scope because I think as a Christian man, I think that's a place where the church can be the church. Be a place where people can be loved. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're going through.
Or forgiven.
Or forgive. I don't know what you did. I know it ain't worse than anything I've ever done. But just know that this is the place where you come because we love you, and we'll figure it out. That's the church.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, let's we need to take a quick break because we got to fix the camera real quick.
Cool.
And then we'll come back. We are burning through time, but I'd like to spend a little bit more time with you if you have the time to do that.
Dude, I'm having so much fun.
If you're not checking out the Mountainside Podcast on YouTube, you absolutely should be. If you like the content that we create here and you want to help support the podcast, please take a moment, subscribe to us on YouTube, and hit that notification bell.
All right. That's bad boy right here. You know these cats?
I've toured the distillery, so we're back. We
We're
decided to dive into some whiskey. Thank you so much for coming in. Cheers.
Dude, thanks for having me, brother.
Yeah.
Cheers.
It's an honor.
Yeah. That'll do.
It's not bad, right?
Yeah, that'll do for St. Patty's Day.
Yeah. Let's go.
I mean, we're not wearing green, so we may as well drink whiskey.
Yeah. I hope you don't pinch me.
No pinchies.
Yeah. So this distillery is a crazy story. It was like, and I'm probably butchering this, but the way that I understood it is fairly decently priced Irish whiskey, hard to find in the States.
I've never seen that before.
Evergreen, shout out to Evergreen Discount Liquor. Am I getting that right? They carry it. But Terrell O'Connell was a mayor, I believe, of Dublin.
Okay.
And he took the city's, he was kind of a Conor McGregor type character. I think he was into boxing.
Okay.
Definitely a gambling man.
Okay.
So he took all of Dublin's money and bet on a horse race as a trifecta and won. Oh my God. And then they started the distillery.
Thus the horse.
Yeah.
That's pretty sick. I'm having so much fun. Are you?
Yes, dude. So I live for this.
Oh man.
I live for meeting new people, bringing new people into the tribe, the community, whatever.
Yeah.
Like
Connection,
I forged, well, to me it's almost selfish. It's like I forged so many relationships at this table. Yeah. Like not only just having amazing people on the podcast tell their story, and it's cool that the public becomes, or they can choose to be a part of it, I guess, and listen in. And I'm so fortunate for that. But really for me, it's the friendships that I've built in here that have translated to just so many different things, so many awesome experiences, some cool shit that I've got to do, time that I've got to spend with a neurophysiologist, back to Doc Kate, two uninterrupted hours to sit down with her, you a specialist in leadership. The podcast is about ready to go to a whole new level after reading the book. And
man, game on. Here we go. I can't wait. I'm in for it.
No, I'm going to change my mindset a little bit, especially after some of the knowledge that you've dropped in here, man. Like, I think that attack mentality of being undeniable, that's something that I struggle with here, because sometimes in the community, when you look up to your mentors and guys like Rogan or even Sean Ryan, who's come onto the scene later, is just like crushing it. Like, I don't aspire to be those shows. Like, I want to be my own thing, but I do feel like an imposter sometimes in that, especially when I start having comms with those guys.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, fuck, why are these guys reaching out or sharing my shit? Or like, it's a nod, but at the same time, I'm not accepting of it. I don't feel like I deserve it sometimes. Like, I feel like we're kind of a small fish in the podcast community.
I mean, I think that's very relatable.
Yeah.
I feel the same. I'm sitting here. Who am I to sit here and, tell anybody what leadership is or isn't,
The absolute perfect person.
Yeah, but the point though, Bobby, is that like, you could talk to any of my ranger buddies, like, one of my closest ranger buddies. So that when you get to a ranger battalion, you get assigned a ranger buddy. Like, every ranger's my ranger buddy, but I also have my ranger buddy, right? And my ranger buddy is a guy named Justin, and 17 combat rotations, Silver Star, Bronze Star with Valor device. He would never, ever, ever say this, and he'll be pissed at me, but he can't shake me anyway, so it doesn't matter. But
little dig here.
Whether it's him or me, I did 4 rotations, 9 years, or the E4 who did 2 rotations and a 3-year pump, or the guy who was in Ranger Battalion and got out right before 9/11 kicked off. You know what a common denominator is? Nobody feels like they did enough.
Right.
So there's
always somebody better than you.
There's always something, right? And I think that's, part of that grit, that determination, that no fail, it's a double-edged sword, right? Because if you're so conditioned to expect and operate and thrive in a zero defect environment, what do you do when you leave that environment? Because we all will leave it eventually, right? I chose to leave it in 2009, which we'll go back to that in a second. But there is a mentality there that can be very slippery. It can be very dangerous. I would also say that if you're conditioned to that, I'm all about excellence. I pursue excellence in anything. And yet still, if nothing is ever good enough, then what the people who are closest to you learn is that nothing's ever good enough.
Right.
You got to be really careful with that. And I was not when my kids were young. I was not when my marriage was young. And I made a lot of mistakes because to me, everything was Ranger. You know, it was the first time I actually felt like I mattered or that I was a part of something. And, you know,
it's a highest fucking standard, a really high standard.
Really high standard. Yeah. That's right. You know, we're the OG American special operators.
You're right.
It's true. Been doing this since the 1700s, you know?
That's crazy. Wow. That's fucking cool.
Fucking A.
Yeah.
It is cool. I mean,
super cool.
You know, we are the only unit in the military where our assessment and selection includes passing a history test.
Really?
Absolutely.
What does that history test look like? I mean, is it?
It looks like
it's just U.S. history, or is it
Ranger history?
Ranger history.
Yeah.
Wow.
Tell us about Sir Francis Marion, the Swamp Fox. How many Rangers ascended Point du Hoc in the 2nd Ranger Battalion in World War II?
This Swamp Fox, isn't that the Mel Gibson Patriot movies kind of based on?
Based on portions of that is based
badass.
on Francis Marion. Yeah, because that's like that's part of the Ranger life is that you go into denied areas and you make those spaces your home. Yeah. Nobody's going into a swamp. We'll go into a swamp.
Right.
Nobody's going up into the Hindu Kush. We'll go up into the Hindu Kush. You know?
Right.
Different war, same Ranger ethos.
Fuck. This is who I want to learn leadership from. I mean, honestly, it's like there's so many self-help people and leadership programs out there. But like you really got to look at who's teaching those. I think sometimes because there's a lot of people that's like that's their thing, right? Yeah. And it's like they have no life experience except for teaching leadership. I'm not saying that you can't take skills, but don't take everything. I think you should shop a few of them and take skills. But I mean, I think it's got to come down to people that have real world experience in trying times, in my opinion, because I think starting a business, starting a podcast, whatever, like this has been really easy for me. Mm-hmm. It's just like it was a natural fit, but we've had struggles, too.
Absolutely.
Like, I think you have struggles in just different forms.
Yeah.
Like you're going to face adversity no matter what you do. I don't care if you're fucking Bob Ross and painting happy little trees.
You think Bob Ross didn't face adversity?
Oh,
How long was he on the air?
Forever, man.
Who stays on the air that long without some serious grit?
By themselves.
Right?
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And it's entertaining to watch.
Well, but that's the thing, though. Like, that's the kind of, you want to see that. And again, I go back to this. Nobody holds a monopoly on adversity. Nobody does. Whether you're a single mom raising 3 kids in the most expensive place in America, or a ranger leading in combat, or starting a podcast, you bootstrapped a podcast out of nothing. And how
Thanks
many years?
To Jeremy. I got Jeremy in my corner.
Jeremy, how many years you guys been doing this?
We're coming up. April will be 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah.
5 years, dude.
Fucking crazy.
What is that?
That's amazing.
That's crazy.
Yeah. We started in a closet like next door. It was
and so
crazy.
And I guarantee the Mountainside today in 2025 looks markedly different than the Mountainside in 2020. And you've grown and you've stayed with it. And that's the key. You got to stay with it.
Right.
You just got to stay with it. And, I'll tell you something that we share with people, and we shared it in the book, and we share it all the time as it relates to, persevering through adversity. One of the key manners or testing mechanisms that we use in the Army Special Operations community is land navigation. So land navigation is very simple. It's basically go find stop signs in the woods, okay? You got a big-ass plot of land. You get a map, a compass, a lensatic compass, and a little plastic protractor, and then you get a list of points. And the task is go find 5 points. You have 5 hours to do it. And if you don't find your points, then thanks for coming. You're out.
You're a fail.
And if you found your points but you missed your time hack, thanks for coming. You're out of the game. And the reason why this is one of the core things that we use is it tests everything. It tests your physical, it tests your mental, it tests your resolve, it tests your emotion, because what inevitably happens for everybody out there, so you're covering like long lanes, long distances, you have to cover like 1-2 kilometers, at a time, 'cause we work in the metric system.
Mm-hmm.
Straight line, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm just a fan of it.
Okay, cool. I'll keep going. So we work in the metric system. So you have to make a plan, plot your points, plot them correctly, make sure you have a plan in place, know what your backstops are, what are your side rails, and this and that, and then all of that's great, but like nothing looks the same on the ground as it does in a map. We know that out in the mountains, right? You know that 100%. Out and about, right? Like, and you'd always make a joke when a dude would be like lost, be like, oh hey, shake a tree and see if you can see it on the map. It's not the way it works, right? Because in real time, in real life, you get out there and you're like, where the hell am I?
It's a lost art too. It makes me worried
So
for
critical.
like my kids. Like I teach them land nav when we're out in the backcountry as much as I can, or just put away your phone, put away your GPS. And I'm guilty of it. When I'm out elk hunting backcountry, I got that Garmin InReach. I'm marking waypoints. I'm doing all, using that. But
you're using the tools.
There's also a map in my backpack. And fortunately, I was taught that from a young age, how to navigate a topo map and real basic stuff. Like probably not what they're teaching you in ranger school or whatever, but shoot an azimuth.
Maybe not. Compass, it's pretty straightforward, right? Shoot an azimuth, know your declination diagram, do your, grid to magnetic, make sure that you get the right course. And you get out there and it's easy to get turned around.
So easy.
So easy to get turned around. And part of what it's teaching you is your technology is great, but it will eventually fail you. Mm-hmm. Your values will not, if they're rock solid. Your grit and determination will not. If you can kind of calm down, get into your head and say, what do I need to do next? And what inevitably happens in everyone's course, right, is that you will hit a draw. So for people who are not familiar, a draw it's one of the basic terrain features. Yeah. It's where two, hilltops come down and meet, the water comes through there. It's always like overgrown. There's always a lot of vegetation in their foliage. Everyone will get stuck in a draw at least once on their land nav course, right? And you're in the draw because you don't know which way is up, right? You don't know which way is up the mountain, down the mountain. You're stuck. There's always that tangle vine. And what happens when you get stuck in the draw is that we start to negotiate with ourselves. We start to ask ourselves, well, did I really want to be a ranger? Maybe I didn't really want to be a ranger. And what Blaine and I share with others, whether from his experience in Special Forces assessment and selection or mine in Ranger assessment and selection, is there are no life epiphanies in the draw. There are only exit doors. So when you get stuck in the draw, because you're going to get stuck in the draw, no matter what you're doing.
It's way easier to quit.
It's way easier to quit. And the first time you quit will be the hardest, but every time thereafter will just get easier and easier and easier.
Really?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But when you get there, an alternative to having a life epiphany, I've just realized that I don't actually want to be a ranger. Okay. An alternative to that is do what you got to do, spit, cuss, throw your rucksack, take your fake rubber duck weapon and beat the shit out of a tree, throw your map on the ground, do whatever you got to do. Take your 5-minute bitch session and then sit down on your ruck, find out where you are, take your next best step towards your objective. You can decide that rangering's not for you on the other side of the draw, but you get through the draw first.
I think I've noticed that with this and other businesses that I've done, that there's always like peaks and valleys, right? And you're constantly going through those. And sometimes you're dropping into a valley and you're like, oh, fuck, I'm at the bottom, but you're not there yet. Like, it keeps going. And you're like, fuck, well, where is the bottom, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, we talk about that in the Ridgeline of Adversity.
Do you? Okay, I haven't gotten that far.
No, not there yet, but like you'll see it.
Okay.
Ups and downs.
This is a great book, by the way.
Thanks,
I'm like,
man.
this is no bullshit. Like, I wouldn't tell you that if it wasn't. Like, it's
bro.
really fucking good.
Well,
cheers. Tell me how you got to this and where you and Blaine, I know that you guys were teaching leadership, but how did you, as a co-author, how do you guys put a book together like that? Because this is really well done. It's really well written. I'm a big fan of the authors reading the audiobook, but whoever you guys got to narrate it has done a really good job too.
He did awesome.
Yeah. Do you know his name so we can give him credit?
I might not say it correctly. Joe Kravich, I believe. If I said it incorrectly, I apologize, sir. I've not had the chance to meet him. But what happened is right. Did I get it right?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Hey, there we are. What happened is that basically it was the winter of last year, and the publisher reached out to us and said, "Hey, good news, guys. We sold the audio rights to the book. We want to fast track it though, so that we can get it out by Pub Day. So I know you guys wanted to read it. Are you comfortable with us doing it?"
That was in March.
Actor?
Like, this is super recent, right?
This just published in February.
Dude, that's freaking awesome.
Yeah, dude, he did a great job.
Dude, thanks for signing this too. It's so cool because I have so many books in here that are signed now, which is so cool. But what I'm excited about with the hard copy, I'm always a fan of, if I really like a book, having a hard copy and the audio book.
Yep.
Because I take them in different ways.
Yeah.
There's so many diagrams in this. That's one of my complaints with Audible, and it's probably not your guys' fault at all. But you can't open up a PDF in Audible.
There actually is a companion PDF to ours.
Yeah,
it's
I tried to open it.
It didn't open up?
It won't open.
All right.
So,
note to our team. Let's make sure we figure that out,
Maybe it's probably me. I probably have an outdated phone, or my phone's not updated.
Let's make sure that we, touch on
I'll
that.
show you when we're done for a different time.
But
we can edit that part out if we need to.
It's totally fine.
But I'm super excited about that because you guys do talk about like some graphs and there's some photos in there too.
Yeah, man.
I'm a big fan of pictures in books because it means I have to stop reading.
Well,
for a minute.
We talk about the.
It's cool. I didn't even know there was a sticker in here too.
Yeah, that's for you. You want to read it out to everybody?
I'd rather be useful than brilliant. Applied Leadership Partners. That's badass.
That's one of Blaine and my my little.
Dude,
it's so true.
That isn't just like the precise, perfect.
Yeah, it's kind of like shut the fuck up.
Bobby and I work with people that we love to just follow. Bobby and I work with people that we would love to just apply that.
Yeah,
just be useful.
Man. Just be useful.
We remind each other of this when we do these engagements: is resist the urge to be profound. Mm-hmm. Just talk to people.
Yeah.
Like I'm not trying to like talk at anybody. I just want. I mean, we get to talk to, rooms 300-400. The largest room I've spoken to in a keynote is 700. I'm not trying to talk at anybody. Nobody likes being talked at. Like, I want to be at the table with you, talking with you. I'm just trying to share.
I think that's why podcasts have resonated so well.
I think so too.
Because it's a true human connection. It's long form. Like, dude,
you're in the conversation.
2.5 hours right now.
Are we seriously?
Yeah.
Oh man. I feel like I'm taking your time. Thanks,
you're not.
Thanks
dude.
for giving it.
This is what it's all about.
But this is the Ridgeline of Adversity, which is on page 51 here.
Yeah.
We basically talk about it all the time, and just like you said, Bobby. I mean, like ups and downs, right? Like there's no straight line to the top. You're gonna have rock slides where it just feels like you just get popped in the mouth. You're gonna have mountaintop experiences, hilltops where you achieved your goal. You're going to have valleys where it's dark.
Well, what I like about this too is because you, like, especially with this, so anything with an audience, you have these spikes, like where you'll get,
Oh yeah,
all the something will go viral,
Yep.
or somebody will support you, like Rogan or something, right? Our first one was Cameron Haynes. Was our first supporter. I don't know if you're familiar with him at all. Oh, you should be, man. He's awesome. I think his son is a ranger.
Oh, really?
Look that up. Yeah.
What's his name? It's
It's not true. His
thinking
other
Troy.
son just broke the world record in pull-ups. He did 10,000
He was just on
in 24 hours.
Black Rifle podcast.
Yeah. You're familiar with those guys too, right? Or friends with Evan and those guys?
I'm friends with there's a couple guys over there that I know very, very, very well.
Awesome. Yeah, they're a good
we actually
company.
just went out and recorded with them a couple weeks ago.
Oh, badass.
Yeah, super cool guy.
Yeah.
What an amazing place.
Yeah, we have
too.
so many mutual friends. I can't wait to catch up with you after the podcast. That'll be a whole nother thing.
It's gonna be fun.
It's just gonna be name drop.
Oh yeah, I know that guy.
Wu-Tang Clan.
Wu-Tang.
Yeah. I gotta go to that show.
protect your neck.
Yeah, protect your
man.
neck. 100%.
We got to go to that show.
Yeah, we got to go to that show.
It's gonna
we
be
should
fun.
do it. Let's tee it up. I'm sorry, I just broke my train of thought.
Okay, it was my fault. Cameron.
No, it's
Haynes.
all. Oh, Cameron Haynes.
Yeah.
He's probably right now the most renowned bow hunter in the world, and he's just taken a different approach. It's not that the hunting industry can be very like self-absorbed and like you were just talking about. Let me talk to you.
Yeah.
Or let me talk at you, not to you.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. And everybody's an expert, and there are no real experts in it, is what I found.
Yeah.
And Cam has kind of taken that approach. This is what I do. Do whatever the fuck you want. Listen to me. You don't have to. Whatever. But he's written some more books. He's written books on hunting, but they've honestly been more like life lessons, like what he's learned from hunting and what it does for him. And this dude trains to be the best bow hunter in the world. And he trains like an athlete. Like he runs ultra marathons, like 235 miles, like super ultras.
I think I might have just heard him on another podcast. Just recently.
Yeah, he's the man.
Mountain Tough, maybe.
Okay, yeah, probably.
I don't know.
He's incredible. He's got a podcast of his own. That's incredible.
Cool. Wow.
Yeah, it's
awesome.
Great production. But anyways, Cam has been a supporter of us.
Nice.
Which is super awesome. And I'm so grateful for that. Like, I think it was our 4th episode. We had my buddy Mark Montoya in, who's actually
Factory
Dustin.
X.
Yeah, Dustin Jacoby's coach. And he was name dropping like crazy. Like, he knew exactly what he was doing. And I was like, don't go listen to the episode. Go and listen to Mark, but just don't listen when I'm talking, man. It's fucking embarrassing. But Mark is such an amazing dude. He went back, and I didn't even really know how social media worked, and he started like sharing and collaborating with people and tagging people. So Cam instantly like reshared it, the little blip that we were talking about, and in that 24 hours we did like our downloads went up like 100 or it might have been 220% or something like.
Wow.
We did more downloads in that 24 hours than the life of the podcast at that time.
That's
and I was
incredible.
Like, holy shit. So we got this instant mountain.
Yep.
Well, then all of a sudden those people all subscribed. It was too fast, right?
Yep.
And then my next guest was like, I don't even know after that. But you just see the decline, right?
Yep.
Like people are like, well, why the fuck did I just subscribe to this guy? He doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about.
Well,
he's not Cameron Haynes.
Yeah.
So it just drops off. So now you're back in this valley again. And it takes gradual time.
That's right.
And then you get those. And that's
set,
this game, man.
You got to keep your eyes set on the horizon. You know, you got to keep your eyes set. What's your North Star? Just like we talked about earlier, it matters in business. It matters in the military. It matters in podcasting. It matters in anything. Why do you do what you do? Mm-hmm. And the other question to ask is for who and for what? For who 100%. Are you doing for and what for? And you know what? What I have found in myself is that if I am at the center of that story, it's probably not going to go well.
Yes.
But if others are at the center of that story, it's probably got a shot, to go better. And so, I mean, that's life.
You just hit the nail on the head because that's exactly what we went through. Because from that moment on, I started chasing. I was like, well, shit, we got to get bigger and better guests to keep up with this. Like, I want to keep that momentum, that trajectory going. But no matter how hard I tried, that trajectory I was going right back into a draw.
Well, and it's easy for you to get off target too. You know, that's when
that's when you get me off target. Yeah.
Exactly, because then you're chasing shiny objects.
Right.
And we talk to businesses all the time about this. What is your core competency? What do you do better than anybody else? Do that. Who do you serve? Serve that person. You get off kilter to that.
Yeah.
You start chasing the likes. You start chasing all of that kind of stuff. That's not for your customer.
Well, what happened to me too is I had all of a sudden I had all these different influences. So instantly we got sponsorship like reaching out to us because they saw our growth. And they were like,
they want to touch. They want to touch that.
They want a piece of it.
Yeah,
right?
Let's ride it.
So I was like, and then they started dictating who was going to come on or what was going to happen, or and that's a slippery slope too. Like
Absolutely.
I had to learn the hard way. It was like,
absolutely,
wait a minute. So finally we dialed it back, and it is what it is today. So
what's this?
Awesome.
The same goes in business.
I'm glad I caught it fast. I'm glad it happened fast.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And probably glad that you had that experience, because now you know the next draw you hit.
I'm ready for it, dude.
What are you going to hit? What are you going to set your compass for, right?
Right.
You're going to set it to your North Star, or are you going to chase the next shiny object?
Yeah.
No, you're going to set it. You're going to set it to the North Star on the horizon, and you're going to keep going. Because now part of our whole, you asked us like, how did this come together, right? And part of it is, and if I go back to where we were in my service story, I was in Afghanistan. I was there when the war kicked off in Iraq. We got stuck there, so my 3-month deployment turned into a 6-month deployment, and all the while my wife is getting jerked around back home, and my kid has no idea who I am. I don't even know who I am at this point in time. And I get back, and I decided to. I had been on the line in a Ranger battalion for 6 years. The usual burn rate is about 3 years. People usually are out in about 3 to 4 because it's just the intensity level is so high. And I said, I had already been over to Afghanistan a number of times, and I said, like, I gotta like take a play off from the sidelines. Can I go down and be a cadre down at the Ranger Regiment headquarters, putting guys through Ranger indoctrination, because it was still called Indoc at the time. So I got awarded that. And Kelly and I start packing up the house, and it's October 2003. And, I go to work one morning in October, and I come home in December. We got alerted. The whole Ranger Regiment, which is, you referred to this earlier, got surged over into Afghanistan. We had some actionable intelligence. They said, we're going to throw the entire Ranger Regiment at this intel set, at these target sets. And thus unfolds Winter Strike 2003. It was the largest operation in the special operations community for the global war on terror. We had everybody out there.
Was that the photo that you showed me?
Yeah.
Earlier? Okay, cool.
Yeah. That was it. So we were deep up in the mountains.
Go to Brandon's Instagram real quick. And oh yeah, you got it pulled up already. Go, Jeremy.
I have to scroll down here. It's not too far down. There it is on the right. That's that one, right?
That looks just like slushy cold suck, dude.
That looks like hell, dude. Hell.
It was horrible. So this is the Kantiwa Valley, which is up in the Nuristan province of Afghanistan. And our task was to essentially clear the valley. We were inserted in the southern part of it, and we had to clear grid line after grid line north up to Kantiwa. Another Ranger element was inserted by helicopter into Kantiwa, and they cleared Kantiwa while we cleared the Kantiwa Valley heading north. So what you're seeing here is the valley floor is 7,500 feet in elevation. We were climbing up ice chutes, clearing towns and villages at 11,000 feet, which was bizarre to see villages up there. And what happens with aircraft, with helicopters, is that when the altitude increases but the temperature decreases, such as it was in this situation. So the average temperatures during the nighttime were single digits, daytime double digits. When you have that increase in altitude and decrease in temperature, the aircraft lift capability decreases. The air is too thin. The aircraft can no longer carry the weight of the cargo. So because of that, they couldn't resupply us. And they also couldn't really close air support us, this is the first time in 3 rotations that I had not had close air support directly overhead, which it wouldn't have mattered anyways, because as you can see, the ceiling is so low, the clouds, you couldn't see
anything.
Couldn't see anything, right? So what's happening here is what had to be done is they would drop what they could carry as far as they could carry it. So 1 meal per man per day was dropped at the base of this intersection of, I believe it was the Perun, which was the other valley, and the Cantiwa Valley, which was the one I was in. And so what we had to do as we were clearing north is slice off a squad and have them patrol south to pick up 1 meal per man per day, and then patrol back up to catch up with the company. So you go
and you guys are rucking, right? Like,
absolutely. Yeah.
You're burning through calories. Like,
rucking, burning through calories. We were so deep up in there that the military term is called sustained operations. Mm-hmm. So whatever you have on your back must sustain you for the operation. So, I mean, we were up there 90-pound rucksacks, 100-pound rucksacks.
Crazy.
You know, people like to tell stories. Oh, yeah, there it is, Winter Strike. That's me. This is a great article, by the way, on Havoc Journal. Do you guys know
Who writes Havoc?
Havoc Journal is kind of a collection of a lot of great people. I got to hook you up with Alyssa over there. Shout out to Alyssa. She's freaking awesome. This is where I started my public writing career. This article was written by one of my Ranger buddies, Josh Gamboa, because during Winter Strike, part 2 of Winter Strike, we had a Thanksgiving came in. Bizarre. Anyways.
Like they dropped a turkey off and shit?
Bro, they came out. So this is not in the Cantiwa Valley. We were in the Chagall Valley at this point in time. So we did 30 days in the Cantiwa, came back, hoped we were going to go home. They gave us 8 hours to refit. And then we went back into a different valley called the Chagall Valley. And in the Chagall Valley, we stopped because it was, Thanksgiving, and they flew out. They flew out from Bagram. It was the baddest ass thing. Like these Blackhawks come like.
And you guys are eating MREs and shit, right?
No.
Prior to this,
no, brother, we're eating 1 MRE per man per day, burning calories. So I was again down 30 pounds, threadbare uniforms. I mean, it was nasty, dude. Living off the land, water resupplies were straight from the river. We had purifier kits, but
are you guys doing any sort of foraging or anything like that at this point, or like? Well, it's the middle of winter, so like, how are you going to forage?
There's nothing to forage. What we did is actually we were able to engage with some of the locals who were wanted nothing to do with fighting with us. I mean, frankly, to be honest with you, not many did. But we had a guy make us beans and rice once. Like we had the ability to give them some cash or give them, something. Mm-hmm. We had a crippled goat come wandering into to our hooch one day. Dude. I'll never forget it. I'm not going to say his full name, but I'm just going to call him G. Yeah. First Sergeant G. You know who you are, brother.
Let's go. Cheers to that.
Dude, I love that man. First Sergeant G. He's the man, dude.
You guys were eating goat backstrap that night, weren't you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This goat comes hobbling in, and we had been in a bit of a pause point. Bro, we hadn't eaten but like 1 meal a day. It was probably, I don't know, maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks into it. We're starving. We're sucking. He
probably wasn't limping. He just probably looked like he was limping.
No, I swear. No, it looked the cartoons where it looks like a steak. Like dude's walking in a steak. He comes walking in, and I'm not kidding you. Like every NCO, we were like looking at this goat.
Oh my god!
And First Sergeant G was sitting on this, like it was almost like he was on a throne, as that's how I recall it.
Yeah.
And we look over, and he had his He was just sitting like this.
Like that.
And this dude was a mountain. Yeah.
Great
Yeah.
word.
He's like a mountain of a man, this guy, right? And everybody looks over at First RNG and he says 2 words, kill it.
Yeah.
And it was on. Dudes were roasting a fire, back straps, like the whole 9 thing.
Let's go.
And I didn't grow up hunting. I grew up in the Bay Area, I'm like I'm like a kid from the suburbs, right? And I'm just like looking at this, I'm like, wow, these dudes and guys are like, you've never seen this before? I'm like, no, man, like this is amazing.
Yeah.
Dude,
it's probably the best meal you guys had out there.
Oh man, that was the best damn goat I've ever eaten in my life.
Yeah. It tastes better when you kill it yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
so, but
it's crazy that. Do you know Jason Nauer at all? Jason the Butcher?
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay. So that's what he's doing right now, and I think he's got. I don't know. I'd have to have Jason. He gave us some of these challenge coins, but he teaches guys from special operations community how to select and butcher and process, and they've designed a whole butcher trailer.
Oh wow!
So they can source their own meats and not be eating MREs.
Oh, that's so cool.
In the middle of whatever country that they're in. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah, I'll have to connect you with him too. He's super
I would love
rad.
that.
He's so busy I can't get him to come back on the podcast. Just teaching military guys how to butcher. Yeah.
Wow.
And then they designed like a whole.
Is this it?
Yeah, they designed a whole trailer.
Oh, that's so cool.
For special operations guys. Yeah, that they can cook, refrigerate, store, package, butcher meat. This trailer is designed around it to pull behind a Humvee or something, and then.
Well, I'm really excited.
It's pretty cool.
My son and I, our Christmas presents this year were 2 Remington 700s. I got him a 308 with a Vortex scope on it, and then I got myself a 300 Win Mag, a Remington 700 300 Win Mag. Also put a Vortex scope on it, and it's just truth be told, Bobby, I went. I had a gun in my hands for 11 years, and then I just stopped. And I walked away from that, and now I'm at a place where that's a Ranger Regiment ad right there, 92 Golf Cook.
Okay.
But
that's a cool photo. Fun
fact about the Rangers, by the way, it doesn't matter what your job is, whether you're a cook or whether you're a door kicker, nobody is a Ranger unless they have passed Ranger assessment and selection.
Let's go.
There is no, you could say like, oh, well, that's a support function. Sure. That dude's a Ranger.
Yeah.
Ranger first. That's what he is.
That's badass.
But it's so my son and I have decided we're gonna get into it, and
super cool.
I'm like, let's give it a go, man. Let's try it. And so
absolutely, man.
Pretty excited.
It's I still do it to this day just because there's no cleaner way to get your meat. It's not like a bloodthirst thing. It's like, and it's also an excuse for me to take time off and like nothing matters.
Yeah.
But being out rucking, really. I say I'm taking my bow for a walk more than I hunt.
I don't know many people who are more focused on being good stewards of the environment than hunters, fishermen.
I agree.
People that are real folks that focus on the wilderness. So
they see the most of it, I think, in the most intimate way.
Yeah.
I think we've brought this up so many times on the podcast, but I think the only people that could maybe argue or lobby against hunters or not be put up against hunters are like wildlife photographers. I think that they experience the land in a very similar way.
I could see that.
And just as intimate, but it's just a different type of hunting. Dude, you're going to fucking crush it hunting.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. You've hunted a lot.
I have. I'm just hunting four-legged animals now.
No, it's so gratifying, man. Like the last episode that we just did was with Bison Rancher.
I saw that.
Yeah. Did you check it out?
I haven't listened to it yet,
okay.
But
so
my
clips,
daughter,
didn't you?
I did.
Yeah.
I did, dude. That's exactly what happened.
It's like,
but I saw the, so my daughter is a CU buff.
Oh,
she's
really?
about to, she'll be graduating. My son is in the Army. He's
Okay.
in the 10th Mountain Division,
No
freaking
shit.
Colorado. You gotta
Let's
love that.
fucking
Gotta
go.
love the Colorado connection.
That's so cool.
badass. But I sent her the images from the buffaloes turn to the storm.
Oh yeah.
So cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. So funny thing, Jim, I don't think we brought it up on the podcast. The ranch owner is CU alumni.
Oh yeah.
His dad was a congressman in Colorado.
Okay.
A congressman, and I think at one point he ran for governor and missed by like
Oh wow.
a fraction.
Dang.
But beyond that, Jim and Julie's ranch has supplied the last couple Ralphies, the
Oh,
CU
no kidding.
mascots. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And they just, because I got invited up to the ranch to help trailer the buffalo, but I couldn't make it. The new Ralphie, I
Gotta
guess.
see Ralphie
yeah.
run. Yeah, we got a new one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go.
It's so cool, man.
Yeah, it's very cool. And it's cool that they're connected, and it's an incredible place. And
Yeah.
it's incredible to me because of the experience that I've had up there. Like some of the most, adversity that I've probably faced in any sort of butchering process has been on their property. So very
Wow.
cool. It's an honor and privilege to have them in. And then he brings me a freaking bison skull. I got to clean it up a little bit.
That's sick.
This is the first time, I apologize, that we've had bugs on the table. I think there's still some brains or flesh or something in there because like it's just a raw. I told him,
I'm like, don't
He
go
was-
changing. This is perfect.
he's like, I will taxidermy it for you. Or he offered to like have
Yeah.
a tax. I was like, absolutely not, dude. Like I like my skulls just raw. I normally don't hold on to pieces of animals. Like I normally utilize it all or send it to my buddies that make knives or
That's pretty cool, though.
whatever. But this is cool because it was a gift, you know?
Yeah,
Sentimental.
man. You got to keep
Spent
that.
some
What a
time
great
up there.
centerpiece.
Yeah. It's very large.
Yeah, it is large.
We're going to have to move it when we have more guests.
Yeah.
I'd love to have you and Blaine on at the same time or
Oh,
something,
yeah,
man.
man.
That would be super cool. And then one thing that I want to dive into, and then we should probably wrap it up because I
Yeah.
want to be respectful of your time, and
Sure.
we're fucking 3 hours right now.
Are we
which is-
really?
Yeah, let's go, dude.
Oh, dude. Shit.
It's awesome. It just means you have to come back for more.
And
Yeah.
you heard it.
I want to talk about, I think one of the coolest things, and you're very humble about it. You don't hold this like on a pedestal. I don't even know if I read about it in the book, is the Best Ranger competition. And was Jimmy, you mentioned, was it Jimmy?
Jeremiah, my partner.
Jeremiah. Yes.
Yeah, I saw you had that up when we came in.
Is he the same guy that was your partner that you served with? Your Ranger buddy?
That was Justin.
Justin. Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
I'm getting him mixed up.
That's okay.
Horrible with that.
No.
So, okay. So I wanted to see if there was any, but I would love to have those guys in as well, you know, at some point or something like that. So
I'll make
we'll
the
talk
ask.
about that in the future.
Justin. Don't be
Let's
lame
go.
about it.
Yeah. Let's go, Justin.
Jeremiah, let's go.
Let's go. So let's go to Best Ranger because
Yep.
I know a little bit about that. Just from one of our former sponsors, like shout out to Uncana and Kobe Cochran. I don't know if you're familiar with those guys.
Yeah.
They were a sponsor of ours for a while. It just didn't end up working out. Like we didn't sell enough product. Like
Yeah.
it's a tough market, but
you never
incredible people.
Nice.
I think he's a former Ranger himself.
Okay. What's his name?
Kobe Cochran.
Cool.
Yeah.
I wonder if we served together.
He has, yeah, you might have. I know he's big in supporting Rangers because
Yeah.
he was one, and
Right on.
and the Best Ranger competition, and so because they were a sponsorship a few years ago, I got to. That's where I learned about it. Like I
Yeah.
had no idea, and
Yeah, it's wild, man.
it is a crazy. Like, get the fuck out of here with your Tough Mudders and your ultra marathons and whatever else your world's toughest mudder. Like, this is no knock. We have some of those athletes in here too.
Yeah, yeah. It's
But
freaking badass.
this is like the fucking next level because you guys are, it's like the tactical games for anybody listening to this that's in this tactical space. You're familiar with the tactical games. It's like that on crack, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, you could press play on this thing without any
Oh,
volume,
Jeremy, let's go.
and you can start just. I'll talk about it
Okay.
while it's happening. I mean, actually,
I do got to warn you, there's a little bit of a delay.
That's me right
between
there.
here.
That was
that is you.
that was
Right?
Jeremiah and me right from the start. Yeah, that's me.
Nice.
Look how young I looked.
Damn, dude, you don't even look the same.
Yeah. Well, thanks. I guess.
No, you look great.
Well, thank you. So the best.
I mean,
range,
you honestly look like you're in better shape right now than you do I'm there.
I am healthier today than I've ever been in my life.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, the life of a ranger is a life of violence, pain, brutality, and domination.
You just talked about eating one MRE for freaking...
While doing all this.
Yeah.
I mean, you could see what's going on here.
Holy shit.
Dudes get chewed up. But the best ranger competition is essentially... they call it the Iron Man on steroids. It's 60 miles in 60 hours with no programmed rest and a myriad of different ranger tasks, things like shooting, combat marksmanship with an M4 and a pistol, machine gun shooting, spot jumping out of a helicopter, making sure that you land, obstacle courses, land navigation. There's two big separators. The first one is the unknown distance march. And an unknown distance march.
That's what I wanted to talk to you about.
Yeah, that's a bad thing. If you went forward in this, maybe, I don't know, 45 minutes, you would get to the best the unknown distance march. But
can you dive into that a little bit? Because that's I think that to me would be the most mental.
You can hit play. Yeah, you can hit play, and there it is. So.
Challenging thing, right? Because you don't know where the end of it is, or when you're going to stop, or how much output you need to be ahead of people, or whatever, right?
An unknown distance march is used a lot in special operations training, but also assessment and selection. It's essentially put on your gear, which you can see. Anybody who's watching this on YouTube, you might have a 65-pound rucksack.
If you're not, tune in real quick.
Yeah. You gotta check it out. And basically put on all that kit and go until somebody says stop. And oh, by the way, if you go any slower than a 15-minute per mile pace, you're out of the competition. You're out of the game. And so one thing that you learn about yourself in Ranger School is whether you are more prone to starvation or sleep deprivation. And something that I learned about myself is that you can starve me, you can put as much weight as you want on me, and you can make me walk for as long as you want, no problem. But if I lose sleep, I'm a hurting unit. And you'll see it in this dude, I don't even know what happened the first half of the unknown distance march, the first night of Best Ranger. I have no clue what was going on other than that Jeremiah, my ranger buddy, was keeping me going. And he was like, let's, here, drink this, eat this, keep this going, keep going. Like when I was out of water, he's like, just keep walking. I'll refill your stuff. I'll refill your water and just keep going. And the thing about unknown distance marches is that everybody who toes the starting line, everybody here is a ranger.
It's not like
they're strong, they're smart. They're tough as nails. You can throw anything you want at them.
These guys are pros.
They're pros.
They're not playing college level sports. Yeah.
No. These cats, it has nothing to do with the physical. It's the uncertainty that is maddening. Because what people do is they start to create false finish lines. They say, well, we're 17 miles into this. Surely they're going to stop us at mile 18. And then they break come mile 19. And that was such the comparison for us. You asked us about how do we, so to answer the best ranger
I get what you're
aspect
saying.
of it
So
is,
it's the guys that are predicting the future.
and it's right. And as opposed to the guys who are prepared for the future.
And this goes right back to, I know that this is a very popular thing right now, is everybody's talking about being present, but there couldn't be anything more true to that than I don't ever think about the future of the podcast other than I have Brandon Young coming in at 1:30 today.
Right.
And that's it.
Yeah.
I don't try to predict conversations. This has all been natural. I've learned that that's the best way. And that doesn't mean that I don't go and look at the stuff that you maybe emailed me or go on your Instagram to look at some photos. Yeah, just a little mental checkup. What's Brandon into? Oh, he likes to ski, be outside. Oh, he's a perfect fit. Let's go.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you try to start predicting the future, that's where you start fucking up, is what I found.
Yeah.
in anything.
Well, right, because the truth is you can't predict the future.
Yeah.
And so but what you can do is you can't predict the future, but you can project expectations. You can project false finish lines. So when you get to that false finish line, it's just like when you're out in the mountains and you get to a false hilltop.
Right.
And it's deflating because you're like, ugh, I thought we were there.
That's bow hunting. That's hunting.
That's rangering.
You're going to love it, dude. You're going to fucking thrive.
Exactly,
Yeah.
because I know damn well that every hilltop I'm tracking towards is going to have a false hilltop.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is that this is the last thing that I did as a ranger in the 75th Ranger Regiment the last thing that I did was compete on behalf of my unit in the best ranger competition. And we ended up placing third. So
That's fucking incredible. How many guys enter that?
I think my year I think it was 36 teams started my year. I could be wrong.
And that's the thing is you do it as a team,
It's
right?
a two-man buddy team.
Yeah, so
that's
it's
right.
not like you place third individually.
No, God, no.
Yeah.
And half the field will not finish the competition.
Wow.
And so Jeremiah and I podiumed. Pretty proud of that. But proud of the way.
You would think with all these like Tough Mudders and ultra marathons and all this stuff because they do have teams. I'm surprised there's not more team events out there. Like a lot of those things are just solo, even though you have support teams and all that sort of stuff. It'd be kind of cool if in the civilian sector they did some sort of team thing because, like, honestly, I have to have a purpose to train. Like, I genuinely do. Like,
and a team.
And a team,
right?
Yeah.
You know, and that's the thing about it is there's no such thing as a lone ranger. It just doesn't. It's not real.
Mm-hmm.
Like rangers operate in teams. You know, you have a ranger buddy. You do the best ranger competition with your ranger buddy. I told you about Justin, my ranger buddy.
Yeah.
That's the way you do life. And
are you still tight with those guys today too?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man. That's family.
Yeah. That's really the bonus too. I think serving and being in the military, I know I'm putting words in your mouth, is like when I get around like some of my friends, I call them friends, but I'm not really their friend. Like I'm just like, I'm an outsider in that group. And I know my place. You know what I mean? Like it's just a different bond. But like I think you can get a lot of those same sort of things in a different capacity from facing adversity together. Like me and Jim were just talking about this in his podcast, and my buddy Donnie, who's served in the Marine Corps at a very high level, never talks about it. He's all about his primitive survival. That's his focus. That's like just moving forward,
He's got
which
his
is
reasons.
awesome. And he's a fucking expert in it. Like
I bet.
the best. So much that CU Boulder has hired him to do reverse engineering,
Damn.
you know, crafting. Well, I mean, look at some of this craftsmanship. It's just incredible.
Badass.
Yeah.
He did
super
all
cool.
of this?
Yep. He made
Damn.
all of these.
Wow.
But he did, it was partially some experimental stuff for CU Boulder. But then this last one that we did was just a bison butcher. And it was a class that people paid money to come out to experience. And he was like, do you want to come be a guest, like instructor? And I was like, why, dude? Like, I don't know what to do with you. He's like, well, you're the only person I know that has experience in this other than me and Devin, and Devin's a doctor. And I was like, okay, point proven. Yeah, I'll be there, dude. Like
In.
Yeah. So we very quickly formed a tribe because you're cutting up a bison that's 2,200 pounds with nothing but rocks.
Yeah.
I mean,
Damn.
it's very daunting. Like
That's pretty heavy.
Yeah, it's very heavy. But if you have an expert there that's teaching you how to do it, like the first time I was like, there's no way I'm going to get through this. Like I'm definitely going to be a fail.
Yeah.
Like that's what's going on in the back of my mind. But I didn't want to let Donnie down because he's been such a good supporter of the podcast. He's been such a good friend to me.
Yeah.
That was the only thing that kept me going. And then when I got there and actually did it, all my preconceived notions went out the window. I was like, this actually isn't so bad. This is actually kind of fun. This is really cool. I can't believe how effective this is. Like,
Yeah.
so everything that I had worked up in my brain wasn't true.
Yes.
The ground truth is the truth.
That's right.
Like, until you're there doing it. And I think that that's something that we lose in our society, and especially in today's society, especially as technology grows and stuff. We want to start telling other people what to do and what they can or can't do.
Yeah.
With no ground truth. Like, you know, the whole back the blue thing and defund the police and all that sort of stuff. I don't think
Terrible idea.
horrible ideas,
Yeah.
right?
Nobody
To
actually
defund
wants
the police.
that.
No.
Terrible idea.
Absolutely not. Those guys deal with so much shit, and we've had firsthand of accounts of it here on the podcast. And
Yeah.
you know, I just think people shouldn't be able to vote or voice their opinions or decide what people are paid unless they've actually walked in that sort, you know,
Yeah.
unless they've had some ground truth or been in that situation.
Yeah. It's
I know you have to keep rails on stuff, right?
Yeah. No, it's
But-
an interesting topic because.
But in between the rails, we shouldn't be playing in there if you're.
I think we're really amiss if we don't take the lived experience in account as a first principle.
Yes.
You know, like if I'm.
You said that so much more elegant. Yes.
No, but I think that's what you're saying. That's
Yeah,
what I'm hearing you say.
100%,
Is
yeah.
it's not that. Look, I've never been a police officer. I have nothing but respect for police. I have many of my ranger buddies have gone on to be cops, and you know, I have nothing but respect, and I have perspectives and opinions like anybody else. And so, if I'm not taking into consideration, though, the lived experience of somebody who has a knowledge set that I don't, I'm really amiss. And I think that cuts both ways. That
Comes
cuts on.
back to like complacency, right? Like you're just
Well, I think it comes back to certainty,
certainty. Yeah.
right? Like you're so damn certain. You know what's really funny? Certainty has become a bit of a joke in the young house, right? Are you certain? Because for years I was certain about everything, right?
Yeah.
And to a certain extent, I had to be, right? When you're operating in a zero defect environment, you know, I'm expected to be indomitable as a sergeant first class.
But that doesn't
in the
apply
Army.
to picking up the Fisher Price toys on the floor that are in the
Of course.
way of the living room. Or
Right.
The living room's a mess, right? Or
Doesn't-
vacuuming the house.
Well, it doesn't apply to that, but if you think everything is all that matters is the life and death decisions that I make while I'm in service, nothing else matters,
Yeah.
then what everybody around you, including your spouse and your kids, learn is, well, nothing else matters. Put another way, Kelly used to always ask me, you know, well, where do you want to go for vacation? I'd say, I don't care. What do you want to do for dinner? I don't care. What do you think about Jaden going to this school? I don't care. And then it sounds like I make 100 life and death decisions every day, right? I don't care what we eat for dinner. Fine. Do you know what she learned eventually? This guy doesn't care. He didn't care.
Or they stop asking, right?
And I think that that's where it gets into this place where, you know, we talked about it before. Like if you're so, like, you have to be willing to see another's perspective, especially the people you care about, especially the things that you care about. Be willing to be curious instead of certain. I know that's like a trope right now. Like people are kind of all about that. But the truth is that if you approach everything with certainty, then you're really going to be isolating yourself, because if you're so damn certain, nobody can tell you anything. And that's the kind of what I lived my first couple years out of the military, is that I was just, you know, I was laser focused as always, and I was certain, and I was kind of going about it. The funny thing is I talked about the fact that I went to seminary in 2020 and I graduated in 2023. When I started that journey, I was certain about just about everything. And what I learned in my Masters of Divinity, in other words, being mastered by the divine, is that I am very, very certain about very few things in life. And that is what matters most. And I'm far more open to engaging in what do you think about this? Like, what is your perspective on this? And we have lost that ability to engage in the difficulty of that conversation and to engage in the nuance of things because we're so certain about the way that we see it, and we're so certain about, quote, our truth. You know, this whole thing has come out like, and Blaine and I tell people all the time, like, look, it's, you know, like there's, no one's truth is any truthier than anyone else's truth, right?
Yeah.
There's not different versions of the truth. There's just different perspectives.
That's my biggest takeaway from this podcast.
Different realities, right?
Because I'm gaining perspective through you right now. You know what I mean? Like that has been so invaluable. Like you can't pay for the education that I've gotten in here sitting at this table. You can't.
Yeah, I mean, we're just
I'm
doing life.
so lucky,
You know what this is we're just doing life together.
Yeah.
You know,
like normal people.
and
like
and,
having a conversation
and that's
without text messaging. Or
exactly. And that's the thing that I personally believe, Blaine and I both view the world this way, that people are smart. We believe people are smart, fundamentally. And what I'm seeing right now is that I think we are all tired of being pitted against each other and fighting with each other.
Yes.
I think we're tired of the bullshit. Look, I put my life on the line to defend America and the ability for someone to live in the United States of America, which is a free, democratic, liberal environment, right? And by that, I don't mean left or right. I don't even like to associate that.
No, it just is. That is the meaning.
It's a liberal democracy by which people are afforded the right to hold a difference of opinion with me. That's fine.
Yep.
It doesn't bother me at all, right? You can hold a difference of opinion with me, and yet I can still love you as a human being.
That's the part we've lost.
I think we're tired of it, though.
Yeah.
I think we are smart enough to recognize that all of the social media and the 24-hour news cycle and the entertainment and the soundbite society has been refined, sharpened, targeted, retargeted, pointed at people, and that our feed is what we are fed. Mm-hmm. I think we're tired of it. Because I think in reality, when we actually put that crap down and you look somebody in the eye face to face, knowing that, you know, you have a different life experience, I have a different life experience, I guarantee there's things that you and I probably see differently. It doesn't bother me at all.
100%, yeah.
But what matters is that you are a human being with irreducible value and that you deserve to be loved. And that's my job. Like that's my opportunity is I just get to show up, love God, love others. That's it.
Yeah, I know. It feels like a TV stunt half the time. Like the whole like not clapping for the kid with cancer, you know, that beat cancer and stuff. Like the fuck, man. Like where is?
Or clapping at a veteran at a sporting event.
There you go.
By the way, most of us don't like that.
Yeah.
I'll just put that out there. Since we're closing up.
100%.
I mean, hell, we're probably past 3 hours now. I may as well say whatever I want to say. You know? But I mean, maybe I might not get invited back. But
no,
the thing is like
you can be truthful on here.
That's
even
not,
if I don't. That's the thing. Is
that's
like,
not for
even
us.
if I don't like your opinion.
Yeah, I don't. But like I could tell you,
I think that people. I think you guys are held on a pedestal, and I think that you absolutely should be. But you guys are the last people that want it.
Right. And if you stay on that pedestal, how do you reintegrate into society after your service? Veterans represent like 7% of the population.
Well, and that was something that Ben and I were talking about. It was just like, and I want to start doing a better job about that. And it's hard not to because there are so many people that deal with so many things, whether it's PTSD or TBI or cancer or suicide or, you know, there's so many things that happen to our veterans in their time of service that I think it's undeniable that they're not going to come back with some sort of issue. But most of the guys that I know, even if they're missing legs, arms, I know double amputees,
Yeah.
that served, and they are still crushing life.
Yeah.
And I look up to them more than anybody, because when I'm thinking about like, oh, my shoulder hurts, like I'm having trouble doing pull-ups. These motherfuckers are jumping rope on prosthetics on one foot, and I'm like, I can't even do that able body. So
Yeah.
shout out to Caleb Brewer, by
And
the way, another Ranger.
Nice. And just as equally, what we're doing is we're looking at you and we're saying, how did you figure out how to live in this environment? How did you figure out how to be a successful businessman? How did you figure out how to be a successful podcaster?
Yeah, that's true.
How did you figure all this stuff out? Because I don't know what to do. And that's where the pedestal becomes a prison. If I'm on a pedestal,
Then you're the rock star mentality. Like,
but truth is, and I heard you and Ben talking about this, and he and I have talked about this a while. We did a ton of work on this, back in the 20-teens when I was at Team Red, White, and Blue. Veterans are not heroes and they're not victims. We're just people, right? If I'm on that pedestal and I can't come down, or you won't let me come down, right? And what good is it? Because then I'm just like, okay, well, I have to play this role.
100%.
I got to play the role of the rock star right now. But in reality, I am terrified because I don't know how to live in this environment around me. I don't know how to be a sales professional. I don't know how to be a business guy. I don't even know how to, that scene in, what was it? Was the movie with the bombs? Where he goes into the
EOD guy?
Yeah. The Hurt Locker.
The Hurt Locker. Yep.
The scene in the Hurt Locker where he's standing there in the cereal aisle.
Right.
Bro, I have experienced that where I'm just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like all of this is foreign to me. Because
And why should you care? I mean, that's just the thing. It's hard. I always equate this because I've had a very unconventional path. Like most guys at 18 or 19 enlist in the military. They go to college.
Yep.
Then they start their career, and then it's Friday and Saturday night at the nightclub.
Yep.
Dude, I was on fucking tour buses and private planes and going around the world and setting off explosions and starting shows with 7 concussion grenades, it was fucking awesome, man. And then Lil Wayne walks out we shot Lil Wayne out of this thing called a toaster. It's literally a human toaster. And there's strippers on the stage and you're just
crazy.
It's nonstop. And then the people that you're working with, it's so fast paced and so orchestrated that it's almost like a special operation itself.
It's chaos.
It is chaos, but it's orchestrated chaos down to seconds.
Controlled chaos.
So you can take a shower and get on this tour bus and drink a beer in the back lounge and then go to sleep for 2 hours to wake up and do it all
Get
over
ready
again.
again.
Yeah. So
sounds a lot like a deployment.
It is. And you go out for 3 months at a time.
Yeah.
And I hate comparing the two because there's nothing like I had a blast, but we worked our asses off. You're sleep deprived. We had the freedom to take drugs and do other things too that, were probably not so healthy. And when you do get a day off, you rage like no other, so
Why wouldn't you?
You're getting less sleep actually. Right? So
you think we were sleeping on our days off?
Hell no. Yeah.
It was platoon parties, drinking.
Yep.
Yeah. Crazy.
And then you just
going to the bars, high risk behavior, right? Why wouldn't you expect that? Because you're in a high risk environment, and and that's the thing is,
you're being told where to go, when to shower, when to eat, I think there's a lot of similarities. And then you come home, and all that stops. Yes. You get off the tour bus, you get on your flight home. You've been living out of 2 suitcases.
Yep.
You go home to your beachside apartment, block off the water with beautiful surfboards, and you're so happy to be home. Maybe you go surfing the first day. Well, guess what you do the next 3 days?
Plan the next trip?
No, just sleep in your apartment and be severely depressed. And then you're like, fuck, I got to do my own laundry. You start getting mad at the little things about loading a washing machine.
Real life stuff.
Yeah. sucks, dude.
Right.
It's boring as fuck.
And to me, what the point is that, my path was go be a ranger.
Yeah.
Your path was freaking rocking out, dude.
Yeah.
Like massive, like radical stuff. But frankly, far more connects us than separates us.
Yes.
And when I go back to the idea that people are smart, we're tired of being pitted against each other. I don't think anybody wants that anymore. Whatever your worldview is, far more connects us than separates us, is really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
And whether you're a veteran who's transitioning out, or whether you've been living that life that you've lived there, and you're making the transition. I heard you say on an episode, it might have been with either Dustin or Ben, where you said, like, when you had kids, you were like, I gotta get off of the road here, right?
Oh, it's probably saved my life.
Yeah, I had to get out of the deployment cycle. It saved my life because I didn't want my kids to grow up the way that I did.
Yeah, people, I mean, that is not a cliche saying.
But how relatable is that?
It does. I mean, yeah,
That's
it's the
life.
same thing. Like, everybody cares, I think, about their children. And this brings it back to even a deeper conversation. Like, I think that was the most disheartening thing in that pullout of Afghanistan, is like watching those ladies throw their babies into over the fucking wall just to have a better life, man. Like a fucking unbelievable.
Yeah.
I
don't
don't want to end on this note.
No, I don't either. But
I think that people need to realize that, because it's just been like, it was in the media for like a blip, and then it was just forgotten about.
Yeah. Well,
I think it's
not for us.
It's come back a little bit with this new administration and stuff, I think.
That's the thing, is like you don't.
But it's
let
like a
go of
political
those things.
tactic.
Yeah, but again, people are smart, and we're tired of okay, now we're going to politicize this, and we're going to aim it at it. Stop it. Just stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it. I don't want
100%.
And we're tired of it, right? Like I just believe fundamentally in the value of this country, of our people, of being Americans. I believe that Americans are smart, and they see it, and they don't want it anymore. They don't want this bullshit where we attack each other, and where we say, just because you live differently or think differently, then all of a sudden, you're not worthy. I reject it. I reject it 100%, and I think that everybody at their core rejects it, and we're tired of the fringe radicalism on either side being like pointed and sharpened and recapitulated and all this. I just think we're tired of it, because I think I'll put it this way. I meet a lot of people. Mm-hmm. I talk to a lot of people. I talk to a lot of people who don't look like me, don't believe the same thing I believe, don't live their life the same way that I believe. Doesn't change the fact that, I was willing to die for their ability to live the way that they feel is an expression of their freedom, of their liberty, in keeping with the American promise. I think most of us actually feel that in our bones.
Yeah.
I really do believe
that's
that.
patriotism.
I think so. That's real patriotism.
I agree.
Not this faux patriotism.
Not that, patriotism is a bad thing.
It's a beautiful thing.
It's a beautiful thing, yeah.
Let's not forget that, we are the country who threw off the yoke and said, nah, we'll do it our way.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody that's here, they're us. They're one of us. Your neighbor is not your enemy. It's just your neighbor.
We're kind of rebels. We kind of think outside the box. We kind of do our own
right,
shit,
man.
Leave us the fuck alone.
And we're kind of great.
Yeah, we're kind of punk rock. America is very punk rock, dude.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Right? But I mean, I think everybody, I really do believe down in our bones, we all want that, because belonging is a core human need.
Yes.
And I think that we can just, I don't know, man, just focus on being where your feet are, focus on the person that's in front of you.
Definitely. Fuck, man. Let's end on that note. That's a perfect way to close it out. I really appreciate you coming in, man.
I appreciate you having me.
This has been awesome. I can't wait to have you back, honestly. I feel like it was too short, and we did 3.5 hours.
Are you serious?
Well, we're coming up on it.
Dang.
Real quick before we jump off. Real quick, this could be another 15 minutes.
If anybody even gets to this point.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we talked about the book at the beginning and the end, right?
Yeah.
Because everything else in the middle, they can tune in or tune out. But you'd be surprised. Especially, it's not very common that we go over 2 hours. I mean, a little over 2 hours is kind of like the standard.
Yeah.
So when people see that I have a 3 hour and 30-minute podcast, they're like, fuck, this must have been good, or they got really wasted.
All the parts I was babbling.
No, we don't edit anything out unless you want me to. Go get the book. This is incredible. Is it
Perseverance is greater than endurance.
Okay. I was wondering how to because in the intro and stuff.
I promise that's the only math.
Okay.
Perseverance is greater than endurance.
That's good.
Yeah, you can
Great book.
You can get it
Jeremy,
wherever.
You got this on camera? Yeah. You can get it from Simon and Schuster.
You can get it wherever books are sold.
Oh, really?
I'm so glad I can say that.
That's
man.
Awesome, man.
You can get it wherever books are sold. If you want to get a quick hit to it, go to perseveranceBook.com.
Well, you got to start doing the Jack Cars, like popping in bookstores and stuff and signing them like this.
Dude, go back to my Instagram. You'll see it. I just did it yesterday.
Yeah,
That's
man. Awesome. I can't wait to sit at home with a hard copy. Thank you so much for bringing this.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time today, dude. Like, you said you didn't want to take too much of my time. That's how I always feel when I have a guest in, because you guys spend an hour driving here. Then you're here for me for 3.5 hours.
And I feel like we've been sitting here for 45 minutes. I'm not
we're
joking.
Still going to hang out after we stop and record here, I'm sure. But yeah, you're always welcome in Evergreen. Thank you so much. Thanks to Ben for connecting us.
Yeah.
Thanks to Dustin Jacoby for being a good friend. And
love you guys.
Yeah, I love you all. So Instagram. What's your Instagram handle? Websites?
Instagram is at brandon.young14. If you want to check us out, we are at www.appliedleadershippartners.com.
And that is where you guys will come into a corporation.
Yeah, we do leadership development. We work with Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies, multinational companies, down to local companies. We have manufacturing companies. We have finance companies. We have healthcare companies. If you are a leader who would like a little bit of insight on how to navigate through growth, change, or adversity, we're your guys. We'll come alongside you, do what we can do to just, see what you got going on and help you guys be more effective for the long haul. That's what we do.
Brandon, crushing it, dude. I fucking love it, dude. Thanks for being a part of this, and thanks for reaching out. More importantly, man, like, I'm excited to have you back already. So
me too.
All right. Thanks everybody for listening. Jeremy, thank you, bro.
Thanks for listening to the Mountainside Podcast. If you haven't had a chance to do this already, please take a moment, follow, like, subscribe, or rate on whatever platform you catch the Mountainside Podcast at. If you'd like some more information on upcoming episodes, safety tips, access to all of our affiliates, and all the badass discounts that we get here at the Mountainside Podcast, check out themountainsidepodcast.com.